580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis, our summer intern, Trenton Craxner on the other side of the glass. Dan Lucero is on paternity leave this week. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Busy show coming your way today. We'll get to last night's Royals loss to the New York Yankees. Not the best we've seen from Seth Lugo. Certainly not the best we've seen out of the offense. An injury to a player that had finally turned things around. Not a great day for the boys in blue. We'll get to yesterday's Royals opener coming up in just a moment. Also, the latest on stadium news. The Royals at least having discussions with the state of Kansas about moving over the state line. We will talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. Also this hour, Jordan Foote, the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report at SI.com. Also, one of the hosts of the One Royals Way podcast at the KC Sports Network is going to join us to talk all things Chiefs and Royals. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. Plenty of Chiefs to get to today. We've got some audio from mandatory minicamp. We'll hear from Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, as well as Drew Tranquill. There will be more players and maybe coordinators who speak tomorrow. And we do know that for now, the schedule includes Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid speaking on Thursday. So we will be prepared for that coming up on Thursday's show. Michael Swain is going to join us today for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll have some other college football news and notes to get to. Another day, another KU position group ending up in a national top 10 ranking. We'll get to that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We've got our headlines for the day. We'll preview Royals-Yankees game 2. What is wrong with you? Random Question Tuesday. All of your Tuesday favorites coming your way here on 580 Sports Talk. We would love to hear from you. You can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or you can jump in on YouTube and chat with us. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Get over there. Subscribe if you have not already. We've got all sorts of great video content for you to check out. Again, that's 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, and that's where you can leave a comment in the live feed on today's show. Speaking of our text line, by the way, from construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply is located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you that we are coming to you live today from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio here on Huntoon Hill. Not, as I said, the best day for the Kansas City Royals yesterday. They fall 4-2 to the Yankees in a game that featured maybe the worst, or at least in discussion for the worst, top 9 lineup for each team on the season. The Yankees put Soto back in, but they did not have Rizzo. They did not have Judge. Rizzo's been struggling quite a bit, but they did not have Aaron Judge, the favorite to win the American League MVP award right now. The Royals were also without some of their firepower in the middle of the lineup. Just not a great day for lineups for those two teams. And you didn't get a great outing from Seth Lugo. If you're going to go into any given game and your ace or one of your aces is just okay, and you're getting almost nothing offensively, you're just not going to win very often against a team as good as the Yankees. And look, it happens sometimes. Lugo was fine. The thing I appreciate about the Lugo start was he was still able to give you 7 innings. Yeah. He threw, about just under 65% of his pitches for strikes. Didn't have his best command, but it was fine. Velocity was right about on his season averages. It was all right. It was okay. I am much more, not concerned, but I would blame the offense yesterday far more than I would blame Seth Lugo for losing. And again,
I mean, they were no hit through 4 innings, I believe.
Yeah. Into the 5th.
Yeah.
And look, Lugo still ate 7 innings for you. He did you a solid and was able to preserve the bullpen as best as he could, still throwing over 100 pitches.
But that's what you ask of him on a normal basis at this point, right?
Right, exactly. No, you're 100% right. You can't have one extra base hit against the Yankees and think you're going to win. Exactly. That's just not a formula for success. The Royals yesterday, 7 hits, 1 extra base hit. It was Bobby Witt's RBI double in the 8th inning. That was it. They did not have a single extra base hit against Carlos Rodon. Carlos Rodon has had a really nice season for New York. He had 3 strikeouts in the game. If you are only striking out 3 times in 7 innings against the starting pitcher, I don't care who it is, you got to put up more than one run in those 7 innings, and then tacked on one more in the 8th, but it was too little too late.
I know it was a loss, but I mean, and it was just the first time we've seen Altalavia. Is that what we're saying?
Altavilla.
He pitched really well for his 1 inning last night, striking out 2, and then Sam Long has just been nail since he's come up.
Yeah. Great addition.
Still has not given up a run.
How many innings pitched is that now for Long this season? 8 2/3. Thank you, Trenton. We'll take it.
Yeah.
He is quickly climbing into that group of, as Dan always phrases it, the plus side of the bullpen, right? The guys who you trust. And even some of those plus side guys have not always been especially trustworthy over the course of the year. But if you are getting that kind of performance from a guy who was a mid-season call-up, you're feeling pretty good about what that bullpen can be. And maybe that puts you in a spot where come the end of July or August 1st, whatever the trade deadline is these days, maybe that allows you to feel a little bit more like, hey, we need one arm. We don't necessarily need 2. If we could go get 2 arms that are reliable for the pen, we're feeling great. But we would still be content if we only needed to add 1 guy. So finding a mid-season addition like Long, who can be reliable, who can be a rock in the bullpen, and he's not going to go, 40 innings this year completely scoreless. That's just not going to happen. But if you can get more outings like this than bad outings where he does give up a run or 2, you're feeling pretty good about him being in the back end of your bullpen.
Yeah, and I think that it's, it's not a lot to show for. It's not even 10 innings yet.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that he's continuing it and getting thrown out in different situations is what's impressed me so far. And maybe he's a guy that's essentially like a steal for you this year. You weren't expecting him to be up, and he comes up and impresses and is on your roster through the playoffs if you're able to make it there.
Means that you don't have to rely as much on MacArthur and Schreiber,
exactly.
Really. And we know how much MacArthur has frustrated Royals fans. I think it is fair to say there has certainly been some frustration with him. The upside is there, obviously. The downside, though, it also obviously exists. I wanted to pull up really quickly for Long what he's been able to do situationally, how many high leverage situations he's had to come in. So in his outings so far this year, 3 games that he has pitched in have qualified as high leverage situations. He's allowing batters to go a whopping 1 for 6. Now, he has walked 2 in those situations, but an opponent's batting average of 167 in high leverage, not too shabby, not too bad at all. Medium leverage, he has not allowed a single hit yet, just 2 walks there. Low leverage, he's been absolutely dominating guys. That's small samples, I get that, but if you're talking about this is the thing that concerns me, this is the area where I have worries. I want to make sure that this bullpen is going to save games for a good outing from Reagans or Lugo come September, come maybe the postseason, when they can give you 6. Maybe they can even get you into the 7th or through 7 innings. Do we have enough firepower in the back end to slam the door? I think if Long can be this guy, and I hope that he can be. I'm hoping we can extrapolate those numbers over a longer stretch of time. If he can be that guy, and you go out and add a B reliever, I used the name yesterday. I'm not saying you have to go get Mason Miller. Would I love it if you could get Mason Miller? Absolutely. Do I think they will? No, I do not. But if you can add even a B, maybe a B- or B+ arm at the deadline for not too much of a cost, you're feeling a lot better about this bullpen. That's 4 guys then that you can reliably go to. It's, however reliable you think MacArthur is. It's MacArthur, it's Schreiber, it'd be Long, and insert trade deadline acquisition there. That's enough. With this rotation and the way they're pitching, that's enough. And that's enough that at least I, and maybe you feel differently, I would feel comfortable with a group like that if we got to the actual postseason, or what would effectively be the postseason, in the race in late September.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, and I think we got a better, not result, but better prognosis for Michael Wacha than was first anticipated.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to be a few months, but he's throwing a bullpen today if all goes well. I think he might maybe hit a rehab start.
Yeah,
or maybe not even have to throw a rehab start. Who knows?
Yeah, if he can get back, shoot, even with the injury he had.
It's been what? It was Friday a week ago? or a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it hasn't been long. I mean,
Yeah,
shoot,
it hasn't been too long.
If he's back anytime this month,
that's a win.
That's a huge win. Yeah. Absolutely agree. On the injury front, one, sounds like things are not necessarily looking great right now for Michael Massey. That's a bummer. He's just getting back to baseball activities. I know we mentioned that yesterday. I was perusing the social media world, checking out the Royals writers a little bit last night. Seemed to be the consensus that there's really no timetable on Massey right now, which is a bummer with how well he had been playing. The other downside from yesterday, really the biggest loss of the day, and I can't believe I'm saying this, how bad he's been for much of the year. Hunter Renfroe broke his big toe last night. He fouled 2 balls off of his left big toe. It's broken. He was placed on the IL today. We'll get to that in a second. He has been bad when you take the entire year into account. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know. In the last 21 games, so we're going back exactly 1 month to May 11th, which is when he hit his nadir for the season. I need to pull up the exact number. I think it was as of that day, he was batting something like 140 for the year. Going back to May 11th in his game log. Yeah. Batting average was 140. His on base was 214. His OPS was under 500. He was OPSing 466. That is horrendous. Since then, in 21 games since that day, which would be essentially the last month of baseball, Hunter Renfroe has a 284 average, a 351 on base, and an 874 OPS.
Yeah, I don't have those last 2 numbers, but the last 15 games, he was hitting 326 with 3 homers and 11 RBIs. So he's been even better than he has in the month in the last half a month.
It feels like he had finally figured it out.
Yeah.
And then he broke his toe. And with how badly the Royals have needed help with the corners in the outfield, specifically this year, Isbell in center is fine. You can live with a guy who's not a good offensive player. He hits the ball enough that you can live with how good his glove is and keeping him in center field, and more often than not, the 9-hole in your lineup. That's fine. But you can't have multiple black holes in your outfield, especially in spots that generally need power. Renfroe was brought in to be a guy who had some pop and wasn't going to embarrass you, batting somewhere between 6 and 8. He was pretty embarrassing for a month and a half, but in this last month, he's been a lot better. That's tough. That one is really discouraging, I would say.
And I think if he wasn't heating up, then maybe there would have been some talk about DFAing him, or if he had any options left to send him down. But the fact that we were in June and he was heating up, hitting better, because I don't think it was like, I don't think his strikeout, I don't have him up, but I don't think his strikeout numbers were that bad. I just think he had bad luck hitting for a good part of it. Like he was getting bad on the ball. I think he was just hitting line outs and into double plays and easy ground outs. But of late, as we just mentioned, with the evident by his batting average, he was getting better. And it's just tough for a guy who was on that trajectory to get hurt like that. And it's going to be a longer timetable than anything anticipated, most likely.
He, for the season, has a strikeout percentage of right around 18%. That's not bad.
For a guy, if you just looked at the raw numbers and like this guy's at one point was hitting 140, he's probably striking out all the time. No, wasn't.
No, it's just frustrating because you finally see a guy who, it's not that you've relied on him, but you were expecting him to be somewhat productive, and it's taken so long for him. He finally starts to figure it out, and now it starts to fall apart. He does, for the year, and I'm trying to pull this up now, just in terms of talking about luck, his batting average on balls in play is down to 215. That is the lowest of his career outside the COVID season, which, as we know, doesn't count. Lowest of his career. He is definitely dealing with some bad luck. Fangraphs, even still for the season, projects him at more than his WRC plus, weighted runs created. If you don't know what that means, it's just a metric that talks about contribution to the offense. 100 is league average. They still project him at a 104 for the year. That telling you that there is bad luck involved here. Hopefully he is able to get back at some point sooner rather than later. We were talking getting into the studio today. Trenton was saying he thinks it might be upwards of 2 months. I hope it's not that. I hope it's not the kind of thing that will sideline him for that long. I will tell you this, though. I've broken big toes before. Not pleasant. Not the kind of thing, especially for a guy who's been good in the field this year. Not great. Not something that you want to continually deal with. So that's obviously a major bummer for Hunter Renfroe. In his place, Drew Waters gets called up today. Nick Pratto is also being called up. Adam Frazier is going on the bereavement list, which will keep him out somewhere between 3 days and a week, but he's not going to play the rest of this series. Hope everything's fine with Adam Frazier. Nick Pratto comes up. He hasn't been great in the minors. We sort of know what Nick Pratto is at this point. Waters is the fascinating one, though, right? Because that is who we have talked about as your next option in AAA, your organizational depth. Melendez has been struggling. Renfroe has struggled for much of the season.
I mean, a month ago, before this turnaround for Renfroe, it was like DFA Renfroe and call up Waters. That was the chatter.
Yep, exactly. He has not been super hot as of late at AAA in Omaha. The bat has cooled off quite a bit, but he's a good fielder. He's still batting for the season. I think it's 284 or something like that in AAA. I hope it works. And because the ideal situation here is that you end up with a difficult decision to make in 6 weeks or whenever it is that Hunter Renfroe comes back, right? The ideal situation is Drew Waters plays well enough where you've now got essentially, what would that be? 3 guys or 4 guys for 2 spots. Technically 3. Velasquez probably isn't going anywhere, and he's started to hit with power again. Melendez has done what he has done so far this season. Renfroe will be back at some point, and he had been heating up before getting injured. And then you would have Drew Waters, who, and I do have his numbers pulled up here finally in front of me. At AAA Omaha this year, he's batting .277, .351 on base, slug of .484. He essentially, for the year, is producing the way Renfroe has produced in the last month. That's effectively what you have gotten so far in 50 games at AAA for Drew Waters. Can he give you something similar to that? Can he, if you take Renfroe's production over the course of the year, batting right at 200, he's right at the Mendoza line with the production he's had. Can you get a little bit better than that from Drew Waters? Because if so, then you end up in that good spot.
Exactly.
Where you've got effectively 2.5 open positions and 4 players to figure out who's going to fill those positions. I'm hopeful. I would love for that to work out for Drew Waters. I don't know that it will. We've seen what he has done in the majors before. Last year, 98 games with the Royals, batted .229, 300 on base, .378 slug. Still better than what Hunter Renfroe has done this year for the Kansas City Royals. I would take that, but that's a little less encouraging than if Waters came up and suddenly you're getting a plus glove and a .250 hitter.
Exactly.
So that's the hope. That's a little bit of the worry. The Royals, of course, back in action tonight. Brady Singer on the bump against Marcus Stroman. I have not kept up with Stroman over the course of the year. He'd been with the Cubs the last 2 seasons, so I am intimately familiar with the workings of Marcus Stroman. For the year, 3.04 ERA.
Not bad.
Fielding independent number of 482. So indicating he's gotten a little bit lucky so far this season. He's allowed 10 home runs in 74 innings pitched, not striking out a lot of guys. In fact, he's got some of the worst strikeout numbers of his career, under 7 per 9 innings. He's also walking more guys than he's ever walked before.
Yeah, he is 5-2 in his starts because, the Yankees are the Yankees and they have that firepower.
Yeah, I want to see.
It's crazy, though. His ERA this year so far is 3.04, which is just below 0.6 below his average, like his career average, which is crazy to think. Like, I always thought Marcus Stroman had a below 3.5 earned run average on his career, but I guess I was wrong.
Let me pull this up. The league leaders in terms of run support so far this year, guys who have made at least 10 starts. Oddshark is going to help me out with this. And no, it's not. The website crapped out. Well, that's really frustrating. But I would imagine a bunch of Yankees are near the top of the list in terms of guys who have gotten the most run support.
Oh, yeah.
In Major League Baseball this year. If I can scan through this real quick. All right, this website's not helping me one bit. Why do I do not care about relief pitcher run support? That is doing nothing for me. Come on. That's entirely not helpful. Carlos Rodon, by the way, who got the start for the Yankees last night, he is among the very best in Major League Baseball this year. He's getting over 6 runs of support per game. No Royals are quite there. In fact, do you know the Royal pitcher who is getting the best run support this year in terms of a per start basis?
Probably, is it Brady Singer?
It is Brady Singer. He's getting 6 runs of support per start this year.
Yeah.
Which, technically, that was a trick question. He's tied with Daniel Lynch. Daniel Lynch also getting 6 runs of support per start this year.
He kind of that probably helped him a little bit, on Friday when he gave up 7, and in order to win, the team had to score more than 7.
Yeah, he's needed the support far more often so far in his 3 starts this year. We got plenty of Royals baseball to get to. We'll continue previewing Game 2 against the Yankees a little bit later on in the show. Coming up next, the latest on the stadium chatter for the Royals and a potential maybe someday move across the state line. Plus, a little bit later this hour, Jordan Foote of Arrowhead Report and One Royals Way is going to join us on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. The Kansas City Royals, really their owner, John Sherman, love to talk about stadium stuff as much as they can. Baseball team itself on the field, awesome. Vibe in the fan base, great. Let's talk more about stadiums. John Sherman, get a PR guy. This is from the writing of Max Reaper, friend of the program, over at Royals Review. The Kansas legislature is expected to convene next week for a special session to work on a tax cut bill, but lawmakers are also expected to consider changes to the Star Bonds program to attract major sports teams to the state, namely the Chiefs and Royals. According to Royals Vice President of Communications Sam Mellinger, the state provides another option in their quest for a new ballpark. The Star Bonds are an economic development tool to finance major projects, yada, yada, yada. Essentially, the state of Kansas wants to use this bond project to build a new stadium for baseball in this case, or football in the Chiefs case, and bring either the Royals or Chiefs over the state line.
So this actually came out last week, and we were getting berated in our comment section about it, but there was nothing there. I guess a Kansas delegate or some kind of political figure was on
a couple state reps.
They were on sports radio in Kansas City discussing it, but there was nothing until after the show. So we didn't know what was going on. But it was originally with the Chiefs. That's how it had been reported at first, that there was a letter sent to the Chiefs. And then at the end of last week, it trickled out to be the Royals as well being asked.
I personally, to be completely honest with you, actually almost want the Royals in Kansas more than I would want the Chiefs. And I am saying that literally only to be self-serving. All I care about is my personal desire there. And generally speaking, I go to more Royals games than Chiefs games in the year. And I would like a shorter commute to go to those games.
I just feel like this whole thing is way up in the air. Like I thought, I don't know, I guess not being from around here and coming in, and then the whole downtown ballpark thing was debuted. Everything was out on that. I thought that was going to happen, but now it's looking like it might not actually be there. Like it's on hold.
Yeah, so there's also in this piece from Max Reaper, he mentions that there's a study that shows of the 16 star bond projects that the state of Kansas has undertaken, 13 of the 16 have not met expectations. But he does add, although a potential Chiefs or Royal Stadium might prove to be a much more unique situation with more revenues than other projects. I actually agree with that. I think if they truly want to entice the Kansas City Royals to move, that is going to generate more public support and probably more political support as well than various other infrastructure projects. Is that right? Is that, and I know we focus on sports, we care about sports a lot. Is that in the grand scheme of things, in a vacuum, the right thing to do or the appropriate way to allocate funds and bonds?
Probably not.
Certainly up for debate. I
will say, as somebody that enjoys baseball in a downtownish setting that has grown up around the ballpark, but it was in the city in the Nationals when they built that stadium in 2008. There was nothing in the Navy Yard district. And going to the game a couple weeks ago, baseball is more of a game where or more of a sport when you go to watch it, that you go out to a restaurant beforehand.
Yeah, it's an experience.
But like if you're going to a football game, I think you'd rather it be out like the Chiefs are right now than in a downtown. Like I think that tailgating is more of a football experience than a baseball experience. So I'd rather have the baseball downtown and maybe either the Chiefs stay where they are or building in KCK near the Speedway, like make its own thing.
I still have my doubts that a move is going to happen, but Kansas is going to try. Our state is going to do everything it possibly can to get one of those teams. And again, if I'm being selfish and literally only speaking for what benefits me, I'd rather it be the Royals. And also it would probably cost a little bit less if it was the Royals instead of the Chiefs.
And you're more I see your reasoning. I mean, without you even saying it, more apt to go to games because there's more games that are going to be had.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's not 8 games plus the playoffs and 1 or 2 regular preseason games.
Yeah, and maybe 2 preseason games.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we'll talk a little Royals and plenty of Chiefs with our pal Jordan Foote, the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report. He'll join us on the other side of this break on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan and Spencer, plus Trenton on the other side of the glass, is our good pal Jordan Foote. He is the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report at SI.com. He is also one of the co-hosts of the One Royals Way podcast over at the KC Sports Network. You can find him on Twitter. Make sure you follow him at Footnoted. That's Foote noted. Jordan, what's going on, man?
Buddy, I'm doing good. I went on a golf trip and got even more tan than I already was, got plenty of sun, got plenty of heat, and, swung quite a few swings and got my money's worth there, and excited to be back just in time for some mandatory mini camp and a pretty legitimate stretch of ball for the Royals.
All right, give us a little bit of a scouting report. What is the strongest part of your game on the links?
Oh, man. So I have right now my irons are these old Cleveland brand irons, and I kind of scoffed at them at first, but they were free. I got them grandfathered into me. So I said, okay, I'll use those, and have stuck with them for a few years. But there's also this set of hybrids that I got with those. I absolutely love it. I think the hybrid is definitely my best club because I also struggle hitting those long irons like the 3 and the 4. So when I'm about 200 out, I like hitting that club. I'll oftentimes leave that in the bag over the driver, leave that driver in the bag. Usually when I take the head cover off that, bad things happen. So I try to keep the big dog in there and, take my 200 yards and go from there.
I haven't golfed in years. I will tell you the best part of my game, definitely the irons, and it's still probably a D plus, maybe a D compared to most. So I appreciate that, and I'm certain your game is better than mine. Well, Jordan, we appreciate you taking the time for us, fresh off vacation, to hang out with us on the show today. Let's get to the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll ask you a little bit of the a few Royals questions a little bit later on, but with mandatory minicamp starting today, and obviously training camp not too far away at this point, what is the biggest lingering offseason question for you with this Royals team? We sort of came to a consensus yesterday on the show with that. I'm curious if you're barking up the same tree.
Yeah, I think really you could go a few different ways. One is like the offensive hierarchy of what happens with Xavier Worthy once that injury heals, the hamstring thing he's dealing with, who makes the team at the end of the wide receiver depth chart. I think defensively, there aren't really many questions. Most of those guys probably have defined roles and they're going to bounce back. So if I had to pick between two, and that's kind of cheating, I'd say who wins the left tackle job. And then the only other major position battle I could think of besides the end of that wideout depth chart is probably RB3. And the Chiefs have been very steadfast in saying that they're confident in the bodies they have. The Keontae Ingrams, the Deneric Princes of the world, to get the job done. So I'd say RB3, but really that starting left tackle job is the big question for me. And I think that outside of, Rashee Rice's looming suspension that potentially could happen, that position battle, that's definitely the biggest thing I'd keep an eye on.
The left tackle job, do you think that Wanya Morris has an upper hand in that battle just because he's been around, or do you think they are truly on even footing to start the year between Morris and Kingsley Suamataia?
I really do think that Kingsley has a chance to win that job. I really, and I kind of push back oftentimes on the training camp, off-season, mini camp, preseason hype right until the beginning of the regular season. I bought it as soon as they made that pick. I think the value was good. He's young. He's a really, really impressive athlete. He has experience on both sides of the line. Now, BYU did play a different system. It was very RPO heavy. He didn't have a ton of true pass sets, you would say, which has been pointed out by a lot of kind of Chiefs pundits in recent weeks. But he's very experienced and very talented and still, 21, 22 years old. So a very supreme athlete for the left tackle position. I think that Andy Heck is a darn good coach, a heck of a coach, if you will. Please don't hang up on me right now for that offensive line spot. And listen, Wanya Morris last year coming in as the 3rd round pick, first game did well, second game did well, kind of up and down in relief of Donovan Smith when he was injured. I don't think that the offseason arrest necessarily hurts his place in that battle. I obviously don't think it helps him, but from a pure football perspective, he didn't show enough to win that outright job. And I do think that Kingsley Suamataia is one heck of a football player. Very athletic again, very quick feet, very powerful hands, a lot of the prereqs that the Chiefs look for, good arm length. If he's picking it up quickly mentally and getting out there on the field and looking good, it would not surprise me one bit if he's that week one left tackle.
Jordan Foote is our guest on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, talking all things Chiefs football here on 580 Sports Talk. Jordan is the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report at SI.com. Hollywood Brown is being talked up like it's one of the biggest signings in the NFL. And in fact, there was a list at NFL.com today of the best new quarterback and receiver duos in the league. And that list had Mahomes and Hollywood Brown number 3 in the NFL in terms of those new duos. I like Hollywood Brown. I think he's a nice player. If you're without Rashee Rice for a period of time, though, this season, Jordan, can you rely on him to be an actual number 1? And does that question even matter when number 15 is your quarterback?
Yeah, I think it's more of the second point. And really, the Chiefs outside of Tyreek Hill have had these types, and even since then with Juju last year and the year before, and then last season having a true by committee, they don't really value the prototypical number 1. And if Rashee Rice this season, even if he is on the field for the majority of the games, is a 1B, and Hollywood Brown is a 1B, and Xavier Worthy is a decent number 2 as a rookie, you can get by with that. And I think it always will feed through Travis Kelce as long as he's even close to being what he was last year, which I have reason to believe that'll continue. So again, it's cliche to say the Chiefs have a wideout 1 and it's Travis Kelce, but if Hollywood Brown is closer to, let's say 2021 when he peaked, he had 91 catches, just over 1,000 yards. He had 5-6 touchdowns. The following year, down to 700, cut the touchdowns in half. I think if he can settle into something in between that, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him have a 1,000-yard campaign. He's never played in as pass-happy as an offense as he has in Kansas City. 2021 Baltimore still really leaned on the run game. Arizona's quarterback situation was iffy when Kyler Murray was out, and still they liked running the ball and getting him on the move. So I think this is setting up for him to bounce back. But with that said, there is a caveat, kind of like you hinted at, where he's been injured in the past. He's still a smaller guy. He's not going to play every single snap on the outside. There's a lot of mouths to feed. So statistically, he's not going to overwhelm or win a bunch of fantasy matchups, I would say. But the quality of what he can do and the lack of overlap skill set wise with some of the other guys and where he attacks on the field, I think that'll set up pretty well for the Chiefs.
We're joined by Jordan Foote, deputy editor of Arrowhead Report, here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Jordan, where are you with the cornerback depth behind Trent McDuffie? Obviously, it appears Jamari Connor will be the nickel, but where are you with like the depth behind in cornerback, and what's kind of the hierarchy?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, I think. Quality-wise, not having L'Jarius Sneed really does suck for the Chiefs, and I think that they're going to miss out on having a Pro Bowl, maybe even an All-Pro type player alongside Trent McDuffie. But if there's one position they've consistently proven they can find random players and develop them, or find, these day 3 picks or UDFAs or bargain bin free agent pickups, it's the cornerback room. And I think Trent McDuffie is that legit all-pro type guy. Most secondaries don't have 2 of them at the cornerback spot, so they should be fine. Jalen Watson dealing with that, I believe it was a torn labrum that he played through last season and then had surgery on. He's been missing some OTA work and then not active in minicamp. So he would be my de facto number 2 pick on the boundary if he wasn't dealing with the injury. But then you have Joshua Williams, who I think has kind of waned a little bit. He's had a roller coaster of production so far, but came on strong last year. The guy that I think many are coming around on these past couple of weeks, he's kind of done some media appearances. He's gotten talked about from his teammates and the coaching staff. I think Najee Johnson, if he looks anything like he did prior to the ACL tear, and again, those weren't real games, it was the off season, they were kind of ramping him up to be a starter level player, or at least a key role player. I think he could play a pretty good role, and you're going to have the Nick Joneses of the world and the Echo Boydos, maybe even Kelvin Joseph finds a way to stick around. But assuming Jamari Connor plays a lot of time in that nickel. Maybe he splits it with Anazi Johnson. Maybe Johnson's on the outside, but I definitely would kind of tab him as my player to watch as he's coming off that ACL.
And moving over here to a little bit of special teams. Obviously, it's been kind of the talk of the NFL the last few weeks after Dave Toub spoke after one of the rounds of OTAs about what they're doing with the new kickoff rules. What is your kind of anticipation with how much we could see Justin Reed or Louis Rees-Zammit actually kick the ball off during the regular season?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a possibility. And we talk about how Dave Toub has this influence over, maybe guys 47 through 53 or something like that. This year, it's going to get emphasized even more. You're going to have maybe another linebacker make the team. Maybe they carry those 4 tight ends and they really use them all, considering special teams. So Justin Reed wouldn't surprise me one bit. He actually talked about that recently, kind of staying ready and preparing and working on fine-tuning his craft. And Dave Toub last week kind of came out and said that they have options. And Louis Rees-Zammit is very impressive as a kicker, not just for kickoffs, but also could maybe even factor into something else we needed to. So if he makes the team and has, let's say, a minimal offensive role, special teams is probably going to be his meal ticket to getting a bigger role down the road. That's oftentimes how it happens for these undrafted or even the international pathway players like him. So I wouldn't be surprised one bit to see him do it. Justin Reed has the talent too. I think the tackling aspect is going to be factored in, and the fact that we're in June and they're already talking about not wanting Harrison Butker to tackle. If Justin Reed proves he can do it, then it shouldn't shock anybody if he does a lot during the regular season.
Wrapping things up with Jordan Foote, the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report at SI.com, also one of the co-hosts of the One Royals Way podcast, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Jordan, should I be annoyed or should I not really care about bringing back Mecole Hardman?
I think that you shouldn't really care about it. I mean, the cap hit's going to be right around $1 million. It seems like a very affordable, low-risk deal. Now, it does complicate the receiver picture. I do believe that now Kadarius Toney is on watch. Sky Moore is probably on watch. The Justin Rosses of the world are on watch. The more you add to that room, the more you see a very defined 1 through 4 with Rice, Worthy, Hollywood, Brown, and Justin Watson. Then you probably pencil in Sky Moore for one of those spots, considering the draft status and the youth. Then maybe you factor in Mecole Hardman. So pending a Rashee Rice suspension, they could carry 7 wide receivers again and then kind of go from there. Hardman's special teams ability makes it appear that he's a lot more likely to make the team. The fact that he signed in June makes it seem a lot more likely that he's going to be on the team. So people, I'm not saying he's a stone cold lock, but it'd be kind of weird for me to see the Chiefs sign him in June and then cut him in July or early August. So he's probably going to play a role. I think the familiarity aspect helps. He's obviously not the wide receiver 3, maybe even not wide receiver 4, but they could have done worse for an end of the depth chart player. And if that's the role he's given, which is always the worry with the Chiefs kind of overcasting some players, then I think he'll be just fine.
All right, Jordan, before we let you go, have to ask a little bit about the red hot until last night Kansas City Royals, who are currently, for the time being, in playoff position. It's crazy to ask, but with Hunter Renfrow being injured, how much more concerned are you about the production from the corner outfielders?
It's definitely something to think about. And man, Renfrow, if you would have asked that a month ago, people would have, had you tested for something and thought that you were just insane because he wasn't playing well. But the past month, that WRC plus has crept up. He's hit for power. He's got on base more. He hasn't struck out as often. He was playing legitimately good baseball for the Royals in an entire month before he got hurt. So then you go down the rabbit hole of what's he going to look back like once he gets back. Is that going to derail his season? Then potentially you have that player option to consider, and then the buyout for next year. But right now, Drew Waters got promoted. Adam Frazier's on the bereavement list. Nick Prado was the sub for him, but Waters was playing well in Omaha, keeping the strikeout rate a little bit more manageable, playing decent defense, factoring in on the base pads. So the ceiling with him is probably what they were getting from Hunter Renfrow over the last month, which is a pretty darn good player. But the floor is also pretty significantly low, which is why coming into the year, I think Kyle Isbell won that job. He's more consistent on defense. I think the offense, the Royals trust a little bit more, even though it's not much. So it's concerning. There's potential for it to work out well, and maybe this is a Drew Waters redemption arc type thing. But kind of like when Daniel Lynch was coming up, you do wonder if he's going to seize the opportunity. And this might be one of the last times Waters has the chance to do that.
All right, we've got about a minute here, Jordan. It is a do-or-die game. You have to pick your starting pitcher. Are you going with Cole Reagans or Seth Lugo right now?
I'm still going with Cole Reagans because of the strikeout stuff. I think Lugo is still good in his own right, and he has 7 or 8 pitches to go to, but I just trust Reagans with the bulldog mentality, the ability to tick that fastball up. I think that if you're game whatever of a World Series or something, you've got to go with Cole Reagans.
I'm with you, man. Lugo's been great. He has been absolutely awesome. Last night wasn't his best, but he's still been good. But, man, the tools are just way too enticing for me with Reagans.
Yeah, 100%. Lugo's been great. He's been awesome. The progression still hasn't really hit too much. I think that he's great and should be an all-star guy. But Reagans in one game, you got to give me that.
Jordan Foote is the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report at SI.com. He is also one of the co-hosts of the One Royals Way podcast at the KC Sports Network. You can find him on Twitter as well, where his handle is @FooteNoted. That's FOOTE noted. Joining us on this Tuesday afternoon on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. As always, Jordan, thank you so much for the time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep, take care, guys.
That's Jordan Foote from SI.com and from the KC Sports Network. Awesome insight from Jordan, as always. That's going to wrap things up for this 2 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk today. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll get to the aforementioned list from NFL.com of the best new quarterback and wide receiver duos in the league, and just a look at some of the best in general, new or not. We've also got Random Question Tuesday, and we're going to hear from both Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco. But before we get there, as we wrap up this 2 o'clock hour, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to take a trip to the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. We've got a family 4-pack of tickets to give away for Thursday afternoon, the finale between the Royals and Yankees. 4 tickets to caller number 4, 785-272-9429. We've got 4 Royals tickets for you for Thursday's game against the Yankees. We'll give those away. We'll tell you the winner next hour on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski right here. Spencer Dupuis across the table from me. On the other side of the glass, Trenton Craxter keeping the show on the air today. Dan Lucero is off this week and next. He is on paternity leave at home with his new and growing family. We appreciate you for hanging out with us today. Whether it's on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online at 580WIBW.com, or on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for spending part of the show with us today. We'd love to know your thoughts on anything we're talking about today. You can shoot us a text on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or you can jump in on the YouTube comment section. Again, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the YouTube channel. You can also find the stream on our Twitter. That's at 580 Sports Talk. On Facebook, the page there is WIBW News. Or if you want it all centrally located, one easy-to-access place, just go to 580WIBW.com. There, you can either click to listen to the audio of the show, or you can watch the video stream. It's right in the center of the homepage right now. Again, 580WIBW.com. That's also, by the way, where you can find information about all the various giveaways and concert ticket opportunities we have. We're giving away some Kenny Chesney concert tour tickets next week. In fact, the next 3 weeks after this week, they'll have some tickets to give away on Thursday morning during our morning ag programming with Greg Akagi. Also a chance to win an outdoor trip of a lifetime to Telluride, Colorado. Details of that trip are also on our website, 580WIBW.com. If plenty of Chiefs to get to here in this 3 o'clock hour of the show, we'll get to the best quarterback and wide receiver duos among new combinations in the NFL. We've got Random Question Tuesday coming up, and we will hear from both Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco a little bit later on this hour, plus your texts and your comments on the YouTube feed. I have to bring this up. It is unrelated to anything else that we have talked about on the show today, or that I just mentioned we're going to talk about. This is from Reddit today. And I saw this via Twitter originally, and the tweet said, "Important moment in dudes rock history." I need to read this to you guys. I find it to be very important and a great example of like modern male culture and relationships. The title of the post is, "Today my husband bought an 18-pack of Batman ice cream bars. I'm so jealous of how happy they made him." This woman writes, "My husband works as a handyman and does odd jobs throughout the summer, and he did some work today near the company that manages or supplies local ice cream trucks. He went over and asked if he could buy a box of Batman ice cream bars, and they were happy to sell them. He was so excited when he got home today. He sang the old theme to the Adam West show as part of the reveal. When I mentioned that we already had ice cream, his immediate response was, quote, 'Babe, that ice cream is great, but it's not in the shape of the world's greatest detective.' To be clear, he didn't say it in a rude way, but in a 'this ice cream looks like Batman and it's bleeping awesome' way. Two of his friends came over to see and have had Batman ice cream with him. I don't think anything has made me that kind of happy. Lots of other kinds of happy, but nothing like that. Maybe it's a guy thing or maybe it's a Batman thing. Either way, I'm jealous and I don't want to be." People will never quite grasp, many people will never quite grasp how little it takes for a dude to just be happy. You don't need much. Ice cream in the shape of Batman, I would also be turned up about this. This would also make my entire day. People do not understand. It is a very easy thing. We joke all the time about remembering some dudes. Like, all you need to do is think of, like, oh yeah, remember Termel Sledge? Remember Angel Baroa? Like, that's all you need to do to just feel great and have a great day. Wives, girlfriends, partners, they just don't understand. They never will understand.
It's like that meme where the guys, it's like, this will just make a guy happy. It's like a lawn chair with like a TV on the ground and like pizza or something like that.
Yes!
Yeah.
It's like, it's just so simple.
The perfect apartment, a folding chair, a TV, a 6-pack, and a pizza.
I mean, this is kind of in the same vein. Over the weekend, I talked about yesterday in my good is reading that article about Strasburg and finally getting that, you know, like getting something. Because the last time he spoke to the media was after his last start in 2022. And I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, I'm just happy that like we hear something. And she's like, he's just a baseball player. He just retired. I was like,
no, it's like, bigger than that.
It's bigger than that. Like, it's just like closure to one of the best players to ever pitch for the Nationals. Like, come on.
It's a big thing. The simplicity of life is important. Sometimes that's all you need. Everybody has something like that.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure we got to that story because I find it to be very important and good for that guy. I hope he enjoyed all 18 of his Batman ice cream bars. I want to be able to find one.
I hope he had more than one in this first sitting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're that happy, you've got to be eating like 6.
I wouldn't go that far.
Are these the ones? They're like the SpongeBob
Yeah, they're
bars,
like SpongeBob, right?
Yeah, where the eyes are the gumballs. Yeah. Oh, this says the Blue Bunny brand ones are cherry flavored. That's weird. It's blue and brown and white, and it's cherry flavored.
I'm looking.
That's
I just looked it up right now. Yeah.
See, I don't know that I would love that, but if you handed me a Batman ice cream bar right now, it would probably make my whole day too. I'm not gonna lie. That would get me all kinds of fired up.
Yeah.
Let's get fired up about some Kansas City Chiefs football, shall we? We'll hear from Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, two of the Chiefs, maybe the Chiefs' 2 best offensive playmakers. Rashee Rice is in that category at the very least. We'll hear from the 2 of them a little bit later on, though.
Hollywood Brown?
We're going to get to Hollywood Brown here. Okay. Perfect segue. I'm glad. We're going to get to Hollywood Brown. So Kevin Patra over at NFL.com, today he put together his list of the best new quarterback wide receiver combos for 2024 in the NFL. So it's got to be a quarterback. It's got to be a wide receiver, not tight end, wide receiver. The best combos in the league. His top 5, in fact. Number 1, he's got CJ Stroud and Stephon Diggs. Okay, I get it. Stroud is the new hotness in the league. Stephon Diggs was bad second half of this past season, but he's still got something left in the tank. He's a big name. Okay, I get it. Number 2, Kirk Cousins and Drake London. I understand the logic, but I don't think I agree. I like Drake London. I think they're going to be better with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. I don't know if I would put that group number 2. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes and Hollywood Brown. For what it's worth, number 4 on the list is Aaron Rodgers and Mike Williams. I disagree with that severely. Number 5 is whichever quarterback starts in Pittsburgh and George Pickens. Man, I just could not possibly agree with that.
Nope.
These are all, by the way, guys who have veterans, all guys who have been in the league multiple years. He's also got a top 5 that involve a rookie in each group, with Washington comes in 5th, Daniels and McLaurin.
Yeah.
I like that group quite a bit. I mean, I don't love Jaden Daniels as a prospect, but I do love Terry McLaurin. I think McLaurin's one of the most underrated players in the league. So here's what Kevin Patra writes about the Chiefs combination. I went back and forth about whether to highlight this duo or Mahomes and Xavier Worthy. I decided to go with the veterans, but I do think Mahomes Worthy could produce at a similar level to Mahomes and Brown. Last season, Mahomes guided a patchwork receiver group to another Super Bowl title with a big helping hand from tight end Travis Kelce and the Chiefs shutdown defense. Imagine what he could do with actual weapons. Okay, timeout. Real quick pause. That paragraph makes me believe that he's saying Travis Kelce isn't an actual weapon. Travis Kelce might be the greatest tight end to ever play football.
Yes.
Let's be a little more gracious with how we're talking about Travis Kelce, okay? So he goes on to say Brown has his flaws. The 2019 first-round pick cleared the 1,000-yard mark just once in his career so far, and he had a career-low 574 yards last year. His first 3 years were spent with the run-first Greg Roman offense along with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Then he shared the field with Kyler Murray for just 10 games over the last 2 years due to Kyler's injury. Health is a concern for the 27-year-old coming off a season-ending injury, but if anyone can help him reach new heights, it is Mahomes. Anecdotally, he's thought of as a field stretcher, which can be accurate. However, where he's won more consistently is in the intermediate 10 to 19-yard range. Now, that is a great point, and I'm glad he brought that up. Hollywood Brown is not at his best as just a go ball guy. He can do it, but that is not necessarily where he is at his best. In fact, I would argue, and Patra does as well, that Kansas City is probably going to be at its best pairing Brown and Worthy up on the field, with Worthy as your true downfield, stretch the field guy, and Hollywood Brown running the slants, the deep overs, the 10 to 19-yard routes, things like that, and opening up the defense that way. I agree with that entirely. Here's my big question just about this pairing, okay? Am I being too pessimistic about Hollywood Brown? Like, I think he's a good player. I think if you were to say on a binary, is this player good? Is this player bad? I would say Hollywood Brown is good. I think he is a nice piece. And I think with Rashee Rice on the field, he can be more valuable because I think then you've got guys who can do a bunch of different things. I think Rashee Rice would be the most complete receiver out of that group. You've got Xavier Worthy going deep, and you've got Hollywood Brown attacking the middle in those intermediate to deep routes. I like that setup a lot. But I think we have to view this team two ways. I think you have to bring two different viewpoints to this offense going into this year. The viewpoint of what do they look like with Rashee Rice, and what would they look like if you're missing Rashee Rice for a while? Because if you're missing Rice for a while, it changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
Just like if you've got Rice out there, well, suddenly you've got a pretty good and ascending number one receiver in Rice. You've got a true deep threat and a rookie in Worthy who could become a very valuable weapon. You've got a solid 2 or 3 in Hollywood Brown, who's got plenty of speed. You've got a very good running back with a good offensive line, and you've got an aging but still great tight end in Travis Kelce with the best quarterback in the league. That, to me, is suddenly, again, one of your better offenses in the NFL. You take Rice off the field, though, and suddenly Hollywood Brown is your number one. I feel like a lot of analysis this offseason has acted like, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. I don't know that it is, and it might not matter. That's why I asked Jordan Foote last hour the question, is he good enough to be a number one, and does it matter if Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback? And he said it probably doesn't matter, and that's totally fair. That's totally valid. But I'm a little more bearish on Brown because I just feel like so much of the NFL analysis world has come down to, oh, my God, they've got a veteran speed guy again. He's going to open up the defense. You toss him in with Worthy. Oh, man, it's going to be unstoppable. Do you feel that way? Because I don't. I think of Brown as a good complementary piece more than I think of him as a good feature piece for an offense.
I think it's hard to tell. I think if we're talking about Brown a few years ago and coming over now, like coming over then.
Sure.
But I just don't know because we haven't seen a lot what he was able to do in Arizona because he didn't have a starting quarterback.
And he was injured
injured, and I tend to want to say that Hollywood could be the guy, but also I want to see because it's been too long since he's been that guy.
That's fair. I think that's entirely fair. He's just never, again, I think he's a good player. I don't think he is a bad player by any means. I just don't think he's the guy who you say we want him to be the feature piece of the offense. If I'm looking at the Chiefs' offensive roster, I am looking at Isaiah Pacheco. That is a guy who I know is RB1. He can handle, in fact, I think, a bigger load than the Chiefs normally give him. He can be that guy. Travis Kelce, obviously that guy. Hall of Fame tight end. I think Rashee Rice, even if you are a little hesitant about going full bore on what you think he can be as a number one, right now I think that is a guy you want to get the ball to. That is the guy who, at least for now, for this offense, I'm trusting him to be wide receiver one on the field. Maybe with a couple more years under his belt, maybe come 2026, we say, you know what? He's this team's number one, but realistically, he's probably more of a good number two for most teams. Okay, fine, whatever. Right now, I'm cool with him being a focal point of the passing game. I just don't know that Hollywood Brown can be that guy. So if Rice is out there, and I'm hopeful that he will be for at least
half
10 games this season. Let's say 10. Let's just use that number.
Just over half.
Cool. That's fine. That I can live with that.
I think, though, where I could argue your point would be if he's not there and Hollywood's got to be the guy, and he does, and he proves it, by the end of the year, he's going to go out and get starting wide receiver numbers.
I would agree with that. Like if he has to be the guy, if he has to step up and be that guy
because of Rice's suspension, he's going to go earn himself a contract that puts him potentially up there in the upper part of the contracts of the numbers for receivers.
And I hope he's able to do that. I'm not trying to bash the guy by any means. I hope he can do that. I just don't know that he has that capability.
The track record now is not to where he's been able to do that.
His 1,000-yard season in his career, he racked up a grand total of 1,008 yards. He played 16 games in 2021, and he got to 1,008 yards. Other than that, that's his only year, in fact, where he's gone above 769. So 5 seasons in the league, he's got 4 of under 800 and 1 where he just got over 1,000. To me,
that's what earned him the money that he got from Arizona.
Yeah,
that
they traded a first-round pick to get him.
Yeah.
That's what Baltimore turned into Tyler Linderbaum,
yeah,
who is a really good center, by the way. That, to me, is a good compliment. That's not a good feature piece. So while I understand, I totally am in favor of adding him to this team. And I think he is going to be valuable. And I think those intermediate things that Kevin Patra was writing about that we read a moment ago, totally all in on that. I just don't think I would be willing to say, yes, this is no doubt going to be one of the best new combination duos, because I don't think you can rely on Brown to be that kind of producer. Whereas I think if you go to the number one on this group, Stroud and Stephon Diggs, I think Diggs can go back to putting up really good numbers over the course of this year. And that's a Houston team that's got a good receiver group. They're 1, 2, 3 of Collins, Dell, and Diggs. That's a really good group. I still think Diggs can put up some good numbers. I just don't know what Brown can do if he's your featured guy. So I'm super optimistic if he's wide receiver 2. I am far less optimistic and much more in wait and see mode if he ends up having to be wide receiver 1 for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and I think he's probably going to be wide receiver 2 because if Rice is there to start the season, because Worthy right now, although doesn't seem to be a big worry for many people about his hamstring, but a rookie receiver in Andy Reid's offense, what you saw with Rice last year.
Yeah.
It took him half the season to get going.
Yeah. And he's still 937 yards. He still was by far the most productive rookie receiver that Reid's ever had. That's going back to Deshaun Jackson. That's going back to Jeremy Maclin and all these other good wide receivers that he has coached over time. Rice is for now the outlier. That's, I think, something worth keeping in mind when trying to project, at the very least, what you're going to get out of Xavier Worthy coming up this season. The rest of the list, how are we feeling? It was, as I mentioned, CJ Stroud and Stephon Diggs with the Texans 1, Cousins and London with the Falcons 2, Chiefs 3, Rodgers and Mike Williams 4, and then the Steelers quarterbacks and George Pickens 5.
Look, to be honest with you, I don't think there was enough. Like, I get where he was going, trying to make content, but in reality, I think you could have just done new wide receiver quarterback combos, not combining them into veteran combos or dividing them. I think there's 5 good ones between the 2 sets.
That's fair. I think that's totally fair. Who from that rookie group, or, a group involving either a rookie quarterback and vet receiver or vet quarterback and rookie receiver, who would you say belongs in the top 5 overall?
I think it's got to be Caleb Williams and DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think so too. Moore's a good player, man.
Honestly, I'm looking forward to the trio of guys between Odunze, and those 2. So I just think they'd be number 1 overall, and then potentially Hollywood and Pat Mahomes. I don't like the way that they did this, to be honest with you.
No, I understand where you're coming from.
I don't like George Pickens and Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. None of those, unless you can get 2015 Russell Wilson, which not impressive to me.
Yeah, which I'm not exactly fired up about, to be honest. Man, the Rodgers thing is so, it just feels so fragile. And we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers in headlines a little bit later on. He's 40, coming off a torn Achilles. Mike Williams is hurt every year. How can you put any sort of stake in that? How can you believe in that? And they have to believe. The Jets have to believe, because if they don't, they're going to miss the playoffs, and everyone's going to get fired, and they're going to have to tear down.
To your point there, what you said earlier in the segment, Drake London, good receiver, but Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles at 36.
Right.
With the whole quarterback situation there,
brand new offense,
and you've also got somebody else breathing down your neck.
Man, I don't know. I don't know how much faith you can have in older quarterbacks losing so much athleticism from Achilles injuries, how you can trust them going forward into this year. I don't trust them. I'll tell you that much.
Like the Stroud Diggs. Like, I think you get Diggs in a new offense, get him a little breath of fresh air. It's been a tough few years for him.
Yeah. And less pressure. Because in Buffalo last year, they had a weak wide receiver room last year. Yeah. They got worn down, a lot of pressure on him to perform. I mean, he might be, depending on how Dell and if Collins can play to the level he played second half of last year, if Dell gets back healthy, I mean, Diggs, there are going to be games where he's wide receiver 3 for that team, which he might not like, but it's going to take a lot of pressure off of him.
No, but it might get him open sometimes.
Well, yeah, that lot more single coverage than he's used to.
Especially if one of those guys is the hot hand.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh, well, guess what? We also have Stephon Diggs.
And you know what? If you want to say, hey, we're not going to give you those one-on-one matchups, we're going to go to zone. CJ Stroud is crazy accurate. Yeah. He is going to tear you to shreds. Coming up, we'll hear from the Chiefs players, Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco this hour, Drew Tranquil later in the show. But we've got Random Question Tuesday coming up on the other side of this break here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Random Question Tuesday time on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Spencer, and Trenton with you. Dan's on paternity leave for the next couple of weeks. All right, and I'm going to loop Trenton in to get an answer to this one. So my question for you today, regarding one of your favorite teams, what is something like a public perception of one of your favorite teams that people get wrong that drives you crazy? For me, I'll give you my answer first. One thing that I hate, I cannot stand it, and maybe it's unimportant, so be it. When people call Allen Fieldhouse Fog Allen Fieldhouse. That is not the name of the building. I just saw it today. I saw it, Rocco Miller, who's a college basketball reporter. He reported last night Oakland is going to come to Lawrence to play KU this year in a non-conference basketball game. And he said Oakland is going to visit Fog Allen Fieldhouse. No, wrong. It is just Allen Fieldhouse. The guy's name was Fog Allen, Forrest Clare Fog Allen, but the building itself is Allen Fieldhouse. Leave the extra word off. Just Allen Fieldhouse. It drives me crazy. What is the equivalent of that for you and one of your favorite teams?
Trenton, you got one? I'm trying to think.
Are you saying like stuff that people say or make up that frustrates you?
Yeah, like something that other people or the public say about one of your favorite teams that is like accepted as truth, but is not the actual truth or the actual reality. Mine is very minuscule. It's the fact that people get the name of the damn building wrong.
Is it that the NFL rigs games for the Chiefs?
That's fair.
When they're the most penalized team in the league just because they get one call late in the game.
You know,
maybe.
That one is true. That one I would even expand further out. Like, here's a KU basketball one, too, for you. Like, oh, well, the foul number. Bob Huggins used to complain about this all the time. Like, oh, KU got to the line 25 times. We got there twice. I remember one game, I think it was like 37-2 in free throws. West Virginia for the entire game took like 4 layups. Like, yeah, Bob, if you take pull-up jumpers and threes the whole game, you're not going to go to the free throw line.
Because I remember when the Chiefs played the Packers this year that I don't remember who was playing defensive back, but someone tackled Marquez Valdez-Scantling at the 4-yard line at the end of the game. They didn't call pass interference.
Yes, that did happen.
So
that did happen.
I think the misconception for me is that everyone thinks that of all teams that you can rig the game for, it's the small market Chiefs, not the Jets or the Giants or any of the Los Angeles teams. That just frustrates me that the Chiefs get all the calls when they're the most penalized team in the league. They had 2 of the most penalized players, Jawan Taylor and L'Jarius Sneed last year.
That's true.
I've got one, but it's fans of this team are now getting it wrong, and it's like it's irking me so much that I almost got into a Twitter feud with somebody last week about it. Yes, the Washington Commanders name is not the best name they could have picked. Yes, Dan Snyder probably picked that name. Yes, he is no longer the owner. No, you can't just change the name out of nowhere. They have a lot more things to do.
Yeah.
On the list, and they say that, and they're like, no, they don't. I was like, what? They just took out a 20-year-old AstroTurf field at their practice facility that hadn't been used in 10 years because it was going to cost $1 million to remove it, and Dan Snyder didn't want to pay for it. They need to build a new stadium. They have to upgrade their current stadium to keep themselves in their stadium because you can't, poof, here's a new stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many other things going on, but people are still pissed about this name.
That's fair. That's a good one.
Yeah. But it's the fans.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
All right, what's your random question for us?
So I'll ask you this because you weren't here last week, and last week I had a random question. What thing from your past do you still get? Like my example for this was, so last year in October when after I was laid off and I had the Wi-Fi, I switched it to my roommate. But for some reason, they wouldn't take his email, so I got every single email from Xfinity Wi-Fi for the last year.
Okay.
And I had to send him how to, because he just ended the lease to move in with his girlfriend, and he just wanted to end the Xfinity account. So I just sent him all the information because Xfinity wouldn't put his email on there. What thing from your past still has followed you that is not yours, but somebody else's potentially?
Ooh, that is... That's a good question. All right, so I'm going to give you a slightly different answer than what you're looking for. My sister, when she was in college in the late 2000s, early 2010s, she was seeing this guy for a while. His name was Max. He's not listening to the show. That's fine. He was kind of a tool. In fact, a major tool. After they stopped seeing each other, she still used his MLB.com and NHL Center Ice login for a few years. I was able to use those until like 2018. He just never changed the password, never checked where they were all logged into.
I mean,
none of that.
that's kind of what I was looking for. You were still able to use something.
Yeah, I was still using it for years, and he never checked. He never said anything, never did anything, and I was able to, back when I was a little more into hockey than I am now, I was able to, Blackhawks are on. I'm not home. I can watch it online.
So when they were actually good.
But yeah, when they were actually not a complete embarrassment and like a joke of a franchise, I was able to watch them a little bit. So yeah, that would probably be my answer, is I was able to use Max's NHL center ice login. Coming up on the other side of this commercial break, we'll hear from Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco at Chiefs mandatory minicamp here on 580 Sports Talk. Mandatory minicamp is underway for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll be hearing from players and coaches throughout the next few days. Let's start with TE1, Travis Kelce, and what he had to say during his minicamp media availability.
Love playing in the NFL, and this will always be my main focus. But outside of that, football ends for everybody. So kind of dipping your toes in the water and seeing what you like and in different areas and different career fields. I think the offseason is the best chance you can get to try and, explore that and set yourself up for after football.
Football ends for everybody. This past year was the first time you kind of acknowledged that retirement was kind of seeping in there. You reworked the contract and everything. I mean, what kind of led you to make sure that you wanted to come back this year? And what do you feel is how many years you got left?
I can't put a time frame on it, man. I love coming to work every single day. Obviously, I know that there's opportunities outside of football for me, and I think you got to keep in perspective that I'm still a little kid when I come into this building, man. I know I'm 34 years old, about to be 35, but I have a love to do this right here in the middle of the heat in June. I love coming to work every single day and doing this. So I'm going to do it till the wheels fall off, and hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. But I can definitely understand that it's towards the end of the road than it is the beginning of it. And I just got to make sure I'm set up for after football as well.
Travis, how important do you think, how important do you feel the Chiefs made in their offseason moves? Obviously, last year was a little bit stressful on the body, for you. But with them bringing Hollywood, drafting Xavier, the team looked like offensively be able to stretch the field this year to give you a chance to get underneath more often and not have so much wear and tear on you this season.
Wear and tear me, baby. I'm ready for it, man. Put the load on me. I love being accountable for the men and the women in this building and Chiefs Kingdom. I love the aspect of everybody counting on me to try and make that play for the team and just do the right things out there on the field and better judgment for the team. And I just I don't think that anything from last year put more miles on me, made me less of a player. I think it was all in all, it was just focus, being my own worst critic. And capitalizing in situations that I should have.
Year 12 for you. In Worthy and Hollywood, you guys added obviously 2 really fast guys. What's that going to do for the offense?
I mean, it's unbelievable that Veach finds ways to bring in not only guys that have talent, that have unbelievable skill sets, but are good people. Just being able to get to know them over this offseason, it's just been cool. That Hollywood and X are just, they're down-to-earth, humble guys, and they love coming to work and they love football. And when you bring that kind of mentality into a building that has that culture already set, the sky's the limit for those guys, and I'm excited that they're here.
Year 12 for you. How do you keep that consistency so that your approach to the game doesn't change?
I only know one way at this point, man. It's the Andy Reid way, and it's you have a certain focus to each day, set yourself up to get better and better, and seeing where the team is now, you have to find a way to play your best from this point on all the way till hopefully January and February. And I mean the road has started, and I'm excited for it. But I only know one way, and that's the Andy Reid way.
You played David Njoku's softball game of the weekend. He said you're one of the nicest individuals he ever met. Where do you get that from? Like, is it something that's taught?
Chief Njoku, man, my guy. He's one of a kind, man. And I'm so excited for his upcoming season. He made huge strides last year, and is really becoming one of the premier tight ends in the league. So I'm excited for him, and I'll always try and support our fellow tight ends in this world. So I appreciate him saying those kind words. But I like to say my father would slap me silly if I was any other way. Sometimes you just got to straighten up and do the right things. And I think over the course of my life, I found that being kind and being genuine and being, just who I am and true to that, I think that's the right way to live. And sure enough, I really appreciate David for saying something like that. But I'll say my family, my mom and my dad are the reason why I'm just always a friendly guy.
We'll go across the room. Go ahead, Emily.
This is a little off topic, but there's a YouTube short of you cooking with your significant other, and I just kind of want to know what you like cooking together.
That's a good question. I respect that question, but I'm going to keep that one to myself because, I thoroughly enjoy cooking with her. So it's something I'd rather just keep personal.
Nate?
Travis, you mentioned you have obviously opportunities off the field, but just what have you enjoyed most about maybe seeing the potential this offseason? And then, Andy said, hey, we may have to reduce your snap count a little bit to obviously, elongate your career. How much of a back and forth is that between you and Andy?
I mean, it's my job to make sure that Coach Reid has full confidence in me to whenever he needs me out on that field or whenever I'm out on that field, I get my job done. And that's my job as a player. Coach Reid, he'll tell you he's got 51%. So as much as I want to be out there every single play, I understand that it's for the betterment of the team when I'm not. And I just I've had to kind of understand that over the past couple of years, and I'm more comfortable with that right now because of the guys that we have in the room, their ability, like Noah, Jay Wiley's doing a great job right now. Obviously, we brought in Irv. We got a lot of great tight ends in the building, and it's just, it's fun seeing them have success as well. And their skill sets are top tier. So, we have a lot of success, and we have a lot of trust in the guys in the building for sure.
What's been the best opportunity this summer?
What's that? Off the field? Man, that's a great question. I would say, getting a little more comfortable in front of the camera, doing some things in the acting world. I think has been some fun that I've had. So look out for that coming up soon.
We'll do last three. We'll go Pete, Neil, and then Todd. Go ahead. Just your thoughts on two players. One in your own room, Jared, why the rookie, and then on the field, Brian Cook, just how far he's come along.
Man, I'll tell you what, I love B. Cook. That guy, what I've seen since he's came from Cincinnati into the building, how he's handled the adversity in terms of the injury and just the ups and downs, throughout our wins and losses, man. He's an absolute stud of a professional and a football player. And you can just see him getting better and better every single snap, every single day. And it's because of his mindset and how he approaches really life. And man, I just love that dude.
And then the rookie in your room, Jared White.
Jay Wiley, man. I'll tell you what, man. He's got a lot of upside. He's got a lot of upside. Very comfortable, smart guy. I would say he's a lot further along than I was as a rookie in terms of just understanding the offense and really seeing the field. He's trusting what he's seeing right now, and I'll tell you what, 1-5-11, the quarterbacks are on time with it, and it's fun to watch him kind of take off and get more comfortable out there.
Neil?
The NFL Network has a bunch of experts on, and they all agree it's almost impossible to win 3 in a row. And it's not a knock on you guys, but the odds are against it. What do you say to that?
You can always bet on the Chiefs, baby.
Todd, on that same ground up front, you talk in here about this time of year about legacy a lot. You keep working hard and trying to do that. Have you guys verbalized 3-peat amongst yourselves as players? Can you talk about it or no?
No, it's really only come up when I got cameras in front of me. I think everybody's pretty motivated to keep the mentality that we had last year. We didn't get to back to back by always talking back to back. We got there by trying to figure out what's the best way to get better from last week and yesterday. And I think that mentality is key in something like this. You can't get too far down the road. Obviously, there's a goal set, but there's a bunch of them that are set before that, like trying to win the division, trying to get first place in the AFC. Those kind of things are more obtainable right now than thinking about the 3-peat at the end of the year.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
Taylor makes a great Pop-Tart and cinnamon roll.
So that's Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I had to keep that in there.
He is one of a kind, man. Let's also get to RB1, Isaiah Pacheco. He also spoke today at Chiefs minicamp.
Isaiah, how's your offseason been, and how do you feel being back in minicamp?
It's been fantastic. Just soaking all the offseason in as much as I can. No offseason surgeries this year around, so just been finding ways to get better off the field.
What's that difference? You're on the field this year compared to last year when you were rehabbing and everything. What's your weight? And you look a little thinner too. I mean.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm 207, 206 around the area. Feeling good. Just mobile. Just ready to do whatever the coach asks me to do.
I think we did notice you were held out of 11-on-11 work just right now. What's your status as far as maybe your right ankle or whatever it might be?
You said I was held out 11-on-11? When was that?
Oh, I thought we saw that today.
Oh, no, that's the wrong Isaiah. Okay. I was definitely out.
You got popped a little bit there, I think, at one point.
Yeah, I got a little cleated in my tattoo I just got, and so I just started bleeding a little bit, but other than that, I was good to go.
We know last offseason you had a couple of surgeries that you were recovering from. Just what was that? What was this offseason like? Just recovering from the season in general.
Yes, there was no OTAs. Most importantly, and that's the most important offseason thing in offseason is to get better, find ways to get better. For me, it was more so finding ways to get better in the rehab room, not on the field with the guys having fun, throwing the football around. So now I'm out there excited, hearing music, throwing the football around. It gets me going. I just know I'm there and have a lot of guys support.
Isaiah, you talked about being at 207, something like that right now. What were you in the last couple of years?
Around 210, 208 is where I like to play. Came in around 216 out of the combine. That was the combine weight. But other than that, when I'm on the field, I like to play around 210, 208, stay a little loose, flexible.
Is that where you played the last 2 seasons?
Yes, sir.
Are you comfortable taking on a bigger workload like you did in the playoffs? Do you think you could do that for a 17-game season?
Yes. Whatever coach asks me to do, I'm willing to take on the role, the task, and just be the guy that some of the guys look up to a leader.
You've been the energy guy. How do you keep that going into year 3?
Yes. Finding ways to get better every day. Just bringing that mindset of being unsatisfied into the room. Just know I'm unsatisfied. people always say there's a limit. There's no limit for me, and just finding ways to get better.
Last year at this time, you had like a quarterback jersey on. What do you think of full offseason being able to put football contact with it?
That's funny. I was just talking about that today. The red and gold. One of the first to do it as a running back position. It felt special, but I don't want to go back that route. So just trying to lock in and just be there for my guys that's in those positions right now and that's looking forward to get healthier.
As a running back, thinking about Patrick, what are you seeing now with all the speed that you can have on the outside?
Yes, just locking in the classroom is most important. Just finding those little details that Pat likes to use to acknowledge the defensive scheme and just to have a better understanding of what the defense will do.
No, what I'm saying, but when you see the two wide receivers, you got Hollywood, and you got Word, you know what I'm saying, with all that speed now, it's going to be on the offense side. What does that mean for you?
I love it. I can't complain. So, you know what I'm saying? If the Pat get to throw the ball all the way down the field, hey, less running I got to do. So, hey, whatever, it takes to get down there to the end zone.
Isaiah, can you just kind of speak to the competitiveness of camp? It's not contact, but there's a lot of jawing. We've seen, a little back and forth with you and some of the guys during the OTA portions at least. Is that fun for y'all to kind of compete and just do whatever you can without actually physically contacting?
Yes, it's important to have that competitiveness in this type of camp. We're just throwing the ball. We're not running, not that much contact, bodies off the ground. So just getting that little edge on the next guy, finding ways to get better every day. Competing is the most important because you can't have guys on the ground out there. So getting their ear, make them a little bit worried in the next play.
Blair, go ahead.
The team won 3 straight Super Bowls. You guys talk about that?
Yes, that's the goal. It's not focusing on that more so, but focusing on what's in the moment, what's in the present right now. Let's take care of today and tomorrow, day by day.
Okay, last 4 here. We'll go Neil.
How's your rugby player doing? How you schooling him up? How's he coming along?
Oh, he's doing great. Just in the football is always it's the talent. You got to love the sport, and he loves it. You could tell he's taking coaching, just willing to do anything it takes to get better every day.
Have you learned anything about rugby from him?
Yeah, they don't use pads, and I know that it's going to be hard to bring him down. So, we got equipment on out there, so it will definitely be hard to take him down.
Isaiah, what do you remember most about your postseason run last year? I guess what was your favorite part about playing your best when your best wasn't needed?
I'll say just having the leaders in my corners, not allowing my game to go downhill when there's a mistake. There's a lot of play in the game, just understanding there's 4 quarters in the game, and you're going to have ups and downs. The momentum is going to shift, understanding that whoever comes out on top has the most heart.
Adam?
Isaiah, in the running back room, it's you and Clyde, and then a bunch of guys who are new to the Chiefs. Anybody in that group standing out to you right now?
All of them. We all working hard. It's the mindset of the guys that's coaching is coming with that mentality every day, focusing on the details of the task of what's in front of us, and that's what's important today.
Guys use the offseason to get better, and you talked about that. What would you use this offseason to get better, and would you go into this offseason saying, hey, I just need to work on this?
This offseason, I went into offseason focusing on myself more so. My first offseason, get a little bit more comfortable room to relax. It's been the longest seasons of my career, the last 2 seasons, from going to the rookie season to Super Bowl, then from Super Bowl, now I'm back at it again from surgeries. It was just no break for me. So now it was a little break, and it's just not comfortable with it, but just finding ways to get better during the moments I have on my own.
So that's RB1, Isaiah Pacheco, also speaking earlier today at Chiefs Mandatory Minicamp. We know we are going to hear from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid coming up on Thursday. Not 100% certain if we'll get more players and coordinators tomorrow or just get more players tomorrow. I assume it'll be players speaking both days. But we will have plenty of Chiefs audio for you coming up tomorrow and Thursday as well. And later on today, we'll hear from Drew Tranquil, the recently re-signed starting linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll hear from him coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. Right now, we have to get to a break for the national and local news. We'll come back in the 4 o'clock hour talking some college football, what is wrong with you, and Jayhawk Weekly. All that's coming up on 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. go. We are halfway home on a Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski here, Spencer Dupuis there, Trenton Craxner over there. Dan Lucero is off this week and next. He is on paternity leave. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. Plenty to get to in this 4 o'clock hour. Also want to give a shout out to our man Greg, who won today's family 4-pack of tickets to the Royals-Yankees finale coming up on Thursday afternoon. Asked Greg who he was going to take to the game. He said, well, I've got a friend who I go with to the weekend home games. And then the other 2 tickets, not sure. So whoever's available for Thursday afternoon will be heading with Greg and his buddy to the Royals-Yankees finale. Of course, our Royals ticket giveaways come to you from the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. Have you or a loved one been in a car wreck? Contact DM Injury Law today and get the money you deserve. Car wreck? Remember, Mike's got this. Appreciate the fine folks at DM Injury Law for helping us out with our Royals ticket giveaways. We'll have more to give away, of course, throughout the rest of the Royals season. We would love to hear from you and your thoughts on whatever we are talking about on the show today. You can drop us a line on the Top City Metal Supply text line. In fact, 785-272-9429 is the text line number. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers. Top City Metal Supply will cut exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel tailored to your project's specifications. So start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. You can also find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. And you can see just past me on my left our beautiful Fans with a Plan banner here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studios high up on Huntoon Hill. I want to give a big shout out to Fans with a Plan, KDOT, and the Drive to Zero campaign for sponsoring our studio here on 580 Sports Talk. We will get in just a moment here in this 4 o'clock hour to some college football notes. We've also got What Is Wrong With You and Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain of Fog.net. Michael will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline to talk all things KU. Jayhawks made it official 13 minutes ago. The newest Jayhawk is official. He has signed Shaquille Moore, the transfer from Mississippi State, who is now on his 3rd team for his 5th and final year of eligibility. How'd you feel about this move? It was announced last week while I was out of town. I imagine you and Dan felt pretty positive about this addition. It might have just been you, in fact, when this news broke.
Yeah, I felt pretty good. They made quick work of the unfortunate situation with Elmarco Jackson, not being able to play next year. And that's just Kansas basketball for you. They've got plans. And unfortunately, it's kind of stinks because they have to fill somebody that was already on the roster and they don't have an extra spot where they could get another guy in, maybe a bigger player in.
Yeah, I think
like that was kind of somebody, it seemed like they were targeting a guy 6'5" plus guy.
Yep.
6'7",
got some ball handling skill, good defender. Yeah. He is going to finish games at KU. I'm going to tell you that right now. Bill Self always says, guys, it's not about who starts. And, he does his normal Bill Self cadence. And he'll tell you it's about who finishes games. Shaq Moore is going to finish games plenty often, I think, for KU with that sort of defensive intensity. If you've got KU with 2 minutes left up, 75-70 in a game, and then you can throw KJ Adams, Shaq Moore, DeJuan Harris out there all at the same time, yeah, you're going to feel. Rylan Griffin as well, who's a good defender, or at least has the potential to be a good defender. Yeah, you're going to feel pretty good if you're KU.
I wasn't here last year. But I mean, minus the one player that unfortunately couldn't play last year.
Yeah.
I feel like this team is better on paper than that team.
So we went into last season saying, and I said this all throughout the year, KU and its top 5, it's 5 starters: DeJuan Harris, Kevin McCullough, Johnny Furphy, Hunter Dickinson, KJ Adams. That 5 in a vacuum, good enough to win a national championship. In retrospect, that was probably wrong. UConn was just so much better than everybody else. But I still think, in retrospect, that 5 fully healthy at their best was good enough to make it to the final.
Yeah, I was referring to the roster itself, not the starting 5. I like the overall depth along the roster seems to be more than was there last year.
Well, for sure, because the point I was going to make was I thought the other guys, Elmarco Jackson and the rest of the freshmen, I thought they were going to have enough to be a national title contender. As it turned out, that was not the case, because I was very high on the roster going into last year, especially when we thought Arterio Morris was going to play. As it turned out, all-time bad move by Bill Self to add him to the team, temporarily anyway. With the benefit of hindsight and knowing what went wrong last season, I would agree with you that I think this is a better roster, because you've got, more than anything, you've got more dudes who can go get buckets.
Yeah.
Rylan Griffin can score. We know Hunter Dickinson can score. We know AJ Storr can go get buckets. This should be a better team than last season. And I think that's valuable perspective when you are, have someone who has more experience with last year's team when it was already in progress, when you joined Spencer in the middle of January, to see them up close and personal, what they ended up being last year, and now compare that to the on-paper roster for this year. Yeah, this should be a better team this year, because you've got more dudes who can go score. You've got more dudes who can put it in the basket. Because McCullough probably barely played after you got here, if I am remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think it was a couple weeks.
Yeah, which, God. What could have been?
Think the first game I went to was the first real, oh, wow, he's gone. He's not playing.
What was the first game you attended last year?
Give me a second. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a little app that Dan,
Memento.
Yes.
Shout out to our friends with the Memento app.
Dan introduced me to this app, and recently I've finally gotten around to
it. Rules.
Looking.
For those not in the know, it's
January 30th.
January 30th. Okay.
The 83-54 win over Oklahoma State, but they didn't even need him.
Well, yeah, when they sat him because they figured they didn't need him, and Bill Self was right about that. Yeah, for those who don't know, Memento, that's what it's called. Momento. It's like the old sports passport website. You can save all sorts of games you've been to. It's got this huge database. It's awesome.
As Dan told me, it's the new way of saying you went to a game without a ticket stub.
Yeah, and you can you can upload a picture and have a digital ticket stub. It rules. If you haven't checked it out, would absolutely recommend. It is super, super cool. All right, let's get to some college football here. We'll talk more Jayhawks a little bit later on with Michael Swain in Jayhawk Weekly coming up in just about 25 minutes or so. Some notes from college football. We might as well start with KU while we're talking Jayhawks. Yesterday, it was the running backs room appearing on CBS Sports' list of the top 5 running back rooms in the country. Well, today, CBS Sports writer Will Backus released his list of the top 5 wide receiver rooms in the country. And while KU did not make his top 5, they did make his top 10. His top 5 includes Oregon, Ohio State. Yeah, Ohio State's on there. Texas, Missouri. Luther Burden's a stud. I hate it. You know how much I hate the Missouri Tigers. Luther Burden is a star, and Theo Weiss is a hell of a player as well. And then Ole Miss comes in number 5. Honorable mentions, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Oklahoma, and ladies and gentlemen, the 5th honorable mention, so effectively number 10 in the entire country, the Kansas Jayhawks. Luke Grimm had to gray shirt, I believe. Maybe it was a blue shirt. When he first got to campus. Wasn't sure he was going to make it, eventually gets there. Quentin Skinner is a former walk-on, and Lawrence Arnold once entered the transfer portal and was enticed to come back by Lance Leipold and the rest of this offensive staff. That trio is one of, according to CBS Sports, the top 10 wide receiver rooms in the country. Effectively number 10, according to this list.
I feel like that's something that you're just not used to at all, hearing Kansas's name in football with those teams.
With top 5 running backs and top 10 wide receivers?
You listed off those names, and I'm like, well, Kansas belongs if you say basketball. Like in my head, like historically over the last 15 years.
And that's even what Tom Fernelli from CBS wrote yesterday in his piece about the running backs room, was that I'm not used to saying Kansas is one of the most talented offensive teams in the country, but you're not paying attention if you're not putting them in that group. And obviously I am biased, but I also agree with that. And this program, we can plant our flag and be happy about it, that from the very beginning with this wide receiver room, we were on top of it. This is has always been a pro Luke Grimm show. Luke Grimm's one of my favorite KU players of all time. I love that dude. Pro Quentin Skinner, pro LJ Arnold. We have been on the Kansas receivers are actually good and bad wagon good bandwagon for years now. And we were right, and I'm glad they are getting more national attention. The offense, I don't think, is going to be the problem unless the offensive line takes a massive step back. You lose Dominic Pooney, you lose Mike Nowitzki. Obviously, that hurts. I think this offense is still going to be really good. I've got questions about tight end. I wish Deshaun Hanukkah had been able to play this year. The torn Achilles, that just sucks so much. Topeka kid, Hayden product, would have loved to have seen him out there. I think he would have played a major role on this team. So you're going to have to change what you can do with that tight end room. But you've got an elite receiver room, a truly elite running back room, what should be really good quarterback play out of Jalen Daniels, excuse me. I'm thinking of your Commanders now. Jalen Daniels, pardon me. This offense should be good. It should once again be one of the best offenses in the Big 12. You got to have JD6 stay healthy, though. That I wish we didn't have to talk about it. Maybe it's not fair, but 2 years in a row, he has not been able to play the entire season due to injury. More of a freak injury 2 years ago with the play against TCU. That's not, a repeatable thing. The back was so weird last year. If he's healthy, this should be a top 3 offense in the Big 12 without question. Without question, it should be one of the very best. My concerns for KU mostly land on the defensive side of the ball. Speaking of, another list here from 24/7 Sports of college football's 10 teams with the clearest path to an unbeaten season. Okay, so this is national writer Brad Crawford from 24/7 Sports. He used ESPN's Football Power Index, the FPI, to come up with the list of the top 10 teams with the best shots to win out this season. Number 1's Notre Dame. Gave them a 16% chance to win out. That's crazy. That tells me their schedule is not very difficult. Oregon, Georgia, as well as Ohio State 4th.
Yeah, I know why Ohio State. I've been seeing this on Twitter. So they're playing they're playing Marshall this year. They're also playing Akron and someone else that's not a Power 4.
Western Michigan.
Yes.
Ohio,
somebody said they might as well join the MAC.
Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. And I don't mean this as disrespect to Marshall. I truly don't.
Yeah.
This is a joke.
Oh, yeah.
This is a joke.
I think that as well, as somebody that went to Marshall on the schedule. I'm like, well, they're going to be in the conversation because they played 3 out-of-conference easy games. Unless Marshall pulls what they did against Notre Dame.
That was sick. That is an all-time great game. Come on, man. Play a Power 4 school out of conference. Come on. They get to avoid they do play Oregon. Okay, they don't play Washington this year. They don't play USC. They don't play UCLA. UCLA is probably going to be pretty bad. Come on, dude. Play a better schedule if you're Ohio State. That's a joke. That is truly, truly a joke. So, yeah, Ohio State should definitely be on that list. Penn State, Texas. I don't know about that. James Madison, they're 7th on the list. Alabama comes in 8th. And then 2 teams are tied in 9th. ESPN's Football Power Index gives them a 2.6% chance of going undefeated. Those teams, Liberty, who, again, will play nobody, although they do have a better coach with Jamie Chadwell. Is this Chadwell's first year at Liberty? No, it's going to be his second year at Liberty.
Yeah.
With Caden Salter as their quarterback. He's a good player, but come on. Liberty doesn't play anybody. Tied in 9th, 2.6% chance to win out, Kansas. Can you believe that? This is what Brad Crawford writes about this. Jalen Daniels and the Jayhawks have a legitimate shot at starting the season 7-0 before a showdown with Kansas State determines the midseason pecking order in the Big 12 title race. That prediction might include extravagant promises, but the schedule sets up for success. From there, KU misses conference newcomers Utah and Arizona, 2 teams with veteran quarterbacks who could easily torch in possibly unblemished record. That does help KU to not have to play Utah and to not have to play Arizona. That is a big deal. I like the schedule for KU. I like this KU team. I don't think KU is going undefeated. I'll just tell you that right now. I think there are too many questions about the defense, specifically the front 7, for me to give any sort of credence to that. But it's crazy to even be in the mix. I will say it every single day until the season gets here. I think without question, KU is the top 4 team in the league. Utah K-State, KU, Oklahoma State. You could give me any argument for those four in any order, and I would say, sure, yeah, I believe that. I don't know. I mean, KU could finish first. KU could finish fourth. That's my top four. If you wanted to even argue for Arizona being in that group, or you wanted to expand the top tier to a top five, I would listen to it to include Arizona, but they've got the coaching change. So obviously you've got some concerns there. He was good, man. Like, we're past, and this is what I've always wanted. We are past the, oh, what a nice story, Kansas. Nah, dude, this team's good. This team is legitimately good. And they're not the only ones in this conference, but that is really, really exciting to talk about. Let's also get to this regarding the Kansas State Wildcats. So Andy Staples of On3, he came up this week. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. Okay, it was earlier today. He came up with his preseason top 12 projected college football playoff field. His top four, the teams that get byes to the second round. Ohio State, number one, with that joke of a schedule we were just talking about. Yeah. Georgia, number two. He's got Florida State, three. That's a bold prediction. Got K-State, four. The rest of his field, Alabama, Oregon, Texas, Michigan, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Boise State as his G5 team getting in.
Boise.
And he had someone in his Twitter mentions who said, I'm not saying they can't make it in, but K-State would have to be near perfect to land a top four seed. That is certainly an interesting pick. Staples responded with a very important note. I'm sure I knew this, but I needed the reminder today. Kansas State could be 10-3 and still be the number 4 seed as long as they're the Big 12 champ. Same applies to Utah, Arizona, Colorado, whoever. This is the part people are missing. The number 3 and number 4 seeds have to go to conference champions.
Yes, I remember that, but it wasn't nailed in detail.
So that is a huge deal, and as unfair as it is, and I do believe it is unfair for many of the teams in college football, the haves and have-nots, when we talk about the divide between the haves and the have-nots, that is a really big deal to be in one of those Power 4 conferences and to be able to say, no matter what, if we win our league, we'll get a bye to the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. That is massive. Absolutely massive. So yeah, if you're K-State, let's use K-State as an example here. Let's take a look at K-State's football schedule for this year. I don't think it's a bad schedule by any means because the Cats also don't have to play Utah this year. UT Martin, win. Tulane, win. Arizona at home, I will call that a win. I might flip that if they were on the road. I'll call that a win. At BYU, win. Oklahoma State. You know what? I'll say right now, I won't go through everyone. I'll say K-State goes like 10-2 regular season. Even if they win, and then they don't win the Big 12 championship game. So they finish 10-3, like Andy Staples points out here.
Yeah.
I mean, they do win the Big 12 championship game, excuse me. They go 11-2, 10-3, win the conference championship game. They're in. They get an off week, and they get to prepare for who in, let's just say in Andy Staples' projection here, they would get to face the winner of Alabama, Boise State with a week of rest. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. There's also someone I saw on Twitter who said, and this is an interesting point. The SEC championship game loser is going to get a raw deal every year. The third place SEC team, who's ranked 7th or 8th, is in the sweet spot. You don't have to play in the conference title game, so you get that week off. Then you get to host in the first round. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's better to finish third than to finish in second. That's not generally how it's supposed to work, but I actually kind of like that point from user at Dr. Dog 96 on Twitter. I'm going to guess he is a Georgia fan if I just had to put a guess out there. So something interesting to note. So if you are any of those top 4 teams in the Big 12, Utah, K-State, KU, Oklahoma State, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to win the league, and you're going to end up in a really favorable spot in the college football playoff because, let's be frank, you're not getting the number 1 or the number 2 unless you go undefeated. But number 3 or number 4, you win your league, you get that off week, really, really valuable spot. Coming up next, we've got today's edition of What Is Wrong With You, and then we will talk to Michael Swain for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? Our current winner for the week, Mr. Monopoly from yesterday, a guy who was, just committing some vandalism and told police that his name was Mr. Monopoly and that he was born on 4/20/69. What an idiot.
And then he was, in fact, 20 years plus younger.
Yes, he was actually 33, not 55. All right, so that's our current winner for the week. Spencer, why don't you go first today?
All right. Well, I didn't see who Brendan had as his What Is Wrong With You story, and I had pulled up a story this morning, and it happened to be the same one, so then I had to go find another one. Actually, can you go first, because this internet is not the greatest right now?
Sure, I will go first. So the story we had originally both picked, we are heading to Lady Lake, Florida, where a man has found himself behind bars after he was caught allegedly walking around his neighborhood naked. 73-year-old Rolf Braun was arrested and charged with exposure of sexual organs and resisting arrest after the incident that unfolded at the Recreation Plantation RV Resort in Lady Lake on Sunday. Shortly before 1:30 p.m., police responded to the RV park on Highway 466 in reference to a male walking the road nude. A couple of witnesses said a man, later identified as Braun, was allegedly walking around the front of his RV lot completely nude. An officer made contact with Braun at his camper. Braun answered the door wearing a T-shirt as shorts with his genitals exposed through the neck of the shirt. He became uncooperative as he was being taken into custody, but officers were indeed able to handcuff him. During his arrest, Braun told police that, quote, there are nude beaches in Florida, so he can be nude in his neighborhood. Rolf, that's not exactly how that works. That is a designated nude area. Your RV park is not that. Also, why did he put a t-shirt on like pants?
Probably all you got.
I do not know. All right, Spencer, what you got for us?
All right, I had to pull it up on my phone. It does not want to work on this computer. We're going back to Florida. A Webster man is facing a long list of charges after deputies say he fired multiple shots at a couple during a road rage incident. A Sumter County deputy responded to the intersection of East Noble Ave and North Florida Street in Bushnell just after 10 p.m. on Tuesday for reports of a truck that was shot up. The victim said he had been driving westbound on County Road 656 when a SUV cut him off and blocked him from continuing to move forward. According to the sheriff's office, the victim said a man identified as 43-year-old Dwayne Snow got out of the SUV and started shooting at the vehicle. The victim told deputies Snow walked around the driver's side of his truck as he continued to shoot. A passenger in the truck recalled seeing a man exit the SUV before the driver of the truck told her to put her head down, in which she did. At that point, the second victim said she could hear gunshots being fired above her head, but she did not see the person doing the shooting. Deputies say the victim eventually put the truck in reverse and fled the area. Investigators later made contact with Snow and arrested him on multiple charges, including 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 2 counts of false imprisonment for using his SUV to block the victim's truck from moving. According to the sheriff's office, Snow also brought his minor son along with him to confront the victim, earning him a child neglect charge.
Come on, man.
Snow was booked into Sumter County Jail just after midnight Wednesday. He has since been released on a total of a $31,000 bond.
What a lunatic. Jeez.
Not only to do that, but your son's in the car with you?
Yeah. What are we doing here? So do we have any sort of motive for why he was shooting at them?
No.
He's just a nut. That's essentially it. Yeah, this guy sucks. Lucky he didn't kill someone.
Yeah.
I think for today, I'm going to go with the dude who is walking around with his junk out.
Yeah, I'll agree with you.
We both had that story. That feels like a natural vote. Does that, however, beat Mr. Monopoly from yesterday?
I don't think so.
Oh, see, I'm going to say yes. That other guy was an idiot. This dude was walking around with his junk out. Said that because you can be nude at the beach, you can be nude at home in your neighborhood. Well, in your home, you can be. Outside, you can't be. All right, let's bring Trenton in. Trenton, you are going to be our deciding vote for today. Who is our new weekly winner? Is it Mr. Monopoly from yesterday, or is it our exposed genitalia guy from today?
I think I'm going to have to go with Mr. Monopoly from yesterday. It's
all right.
An older man, not old, I should say, being very childish.
Around with his junk out. All right, that's what we will do. We will go with Mr. Monopoly. He is still our weekly winner in What Is Wrong With You. Coming up on the other side of this timeout, Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain of Fog.net here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us now on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, he covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than anybody and does so for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. His name is Michael Swain. Go follow him on Twitter at mswain247. And, of course, go check out his phenomenal work covering KU over at Fog.net. And, Michael, before we get started with KU today, a big round of applause and congratulations is in order. The newly engaged Michael Swain joining us on the show.
Oh, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm very fired up. She's listening to me right now, so I have to say very positive things. But yeah, very fired up.
All right, I have to ask, how did you propose? Because I did it. I took my now wife to a spot that was meaningful to us, emotionally significant and all that. I got down on a knee and I completely blacked out. I, honest to God, do not know what I told her when I asked my now wife to marry me. Do you remember what actually happened last week?
I do remember. We live in Overland Park, so we went to Shawnee Mission Park, where we go and hang out along the weekends, go hike and all that stuff. So went on one of the trails we've been walking on for basically the 2 years plus we've been together, and basically there's a little park bench. Then I pretended my back was hurting and needed to sit down. And then we sat down for a minute and then I did it. So it all works perfectly. But yeah, I did it at a nice little trail at Shawnee Mission Park, which is a lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations, man. Very happy for you. Very happy for your new fiance. That is going to be awesome. Let's get to KU here. Let's get to the work part of your life recently, Michael, because I know the off season is not really an off season anymore in college sports with both football and basketball. Let's start on the hardwood. The newest member of the Kansas Jayhawks is Shaquille Moore, the transfer from Mississippi State. I know that he had been a target for KU even before the Elmarko Jackson injury. But then when Elmarko got hurt last week, well, it made even more sense to try to go add somebody. What is Shaq Moore going to bring to the table for Bill Self's group?
Yeah, it seems like a prototypical kind of Bill Self guard, honestly. You look at the skill set he brings, right? His athleticism. You watch the highlights. He's a guy that's able to dunk the ball at 6'1". He's got great pop. When he looks to attack the rim, I think that's one of the first things that stands out. And I think we've talked on the show before about how much KU wanted to add better athleticism to this roster. And I think first and foremost, right, I think that's what, he brings, right? That ability to just make athletic plays that I don't think KU really had the ability to make last year. So that's really important. And then you look defensively, he's really, really good defensively. So you're going to have the potential of having two guys in the backcourt in DeJuan Harris and Moore, and guys that can really get after the lead guards on the other team. That's a huge thing for KU now, and having a guy that can come off the bench and there's not a huge drop off defensively. That's huge. And then, he's not a great scorer. I think that's something that maybe will be a more peripheral part of his game at KU, but I think it's a guy that can bring you really experienced minutes. I think it's going to be a little bit more steady. Maybe of a sure thing, if you will, than Elmarko, where it was kind of a question for Elmarko. How much is he going to develop this offseason? Where is he going to take the steps forward? Like, Moore is very much a polished product at this point, right? He's been in college. He's going to be using his COVID years, so that's how old he is. So I think it's a really good addition for KU, especially considering the circumstances. But, from what I've heard, it sounds like this was going to happen even before Elmarko got hurt.
Is this the kind of player, given his defensive prowess? I mean, he's a former, at least he was on the watch list a couple of years ago for the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. Is this the kind of guy who you could see being an end-of-game player, final media timeout, one more sub for KU? This dude is so good defensively. Maybe he can't score, but Bill Self's going to try to put him on the floor in those key moments anyway?
Well, I think he'll help answer that question for each team, right? Bill Self says it's different for every team, right? Are you a team that wants to have the ball down one or be guarding when you're down or up one? And I think he is the type of player who you want to have on the floor when you're trying to get that final stop. I don't know if you want him on the floor, right? Maybe you want Rylan and AJ and guys like that on the floor at the same time, or Zeke, right? If you're trying to go get a bucket. But I think if KU needs to stop down the stretch and it's the final possession of the game and there's a timeout, I'd be very shocked if he's not on the floor for KU.
We're talking to Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Is this it then? Is this probably it for the KU men's basketball roster?
I think so. At least that's what I've heard. there's always the chance, right, that KU finds a guy late that wants to come, and the international market, right, is something that has been floated. I don't know of anyone in particular that would come at this point. And look, with the international guys too, you're juggling something where those guys, are basically playing for pro teams, and those pro teams want them to stay because then they get the pro contracts. And then there's a question of, okay, well, if they come over, right, are they able to earn NIL? Are they going to have much of a role? So things can get complicated with an international prospect. Not everyone's going to be like Johnny Furphy, where it can be a little bit more clean cut because of the fact that he was going to reclass back a year, right? And then he went back to his initial class, right? That's a lot easier to do than maybe some of these other international guys who are actually playing for pro teams, right? There are a few guys that KU's looked at. One of the guys from Real Madrid, who now is going to BYU. Man, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but KU looked at him. He was maybe a little bit of an option for a second, but nothing really developed there. So I think, long answer to a short question. Look, if you maybe put my money on it, I think KU's probably done. But you can't ever say that they're totally done in this era of college basketball, because there's always a chance that another opportunity could come up that KU can't pass up.
With that in mind, then, what do you think the rotation would look like right now? Or at least, when we hear Bill Self talk about, I want 8 or even 9 starters on this team, what do you think that main core looks like at the moment?
Yeah, so obviously, right, there's 3 guys coming back from last year, right? You've got DeJuan, KJ, and Hunter. You obviously add in your AJ, your Zeke Mayo, your Moore, and your Ryland. So then you're up to what? That's 7? If my math is right, yeah, that's 7 right there. And then you got to get your extra big man, right? Flory, that's probably 8. And then it comes down to, hey, Marquise Passmore, right? Well, what you got? It's, the early word is pretty positive, but we're 2 weeks into summer school, so there's a little bit of ways to go here before you totally have a full picture of what it's going to look like for him. But I think that's probably right. You have Flory there. That's probably your top 8. Maybe Marquise is that 9th guy. And then it's kind of a question of, what does it maybe look like for Jamari McDowell or someone like that. So I think that's probably it. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, though. I don't have the roster in front of me. So if I am, apologies.
We're joined by Michael Swain here at Fog.net and 24/7 Sports on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And something we didn't get a chance to talk to you about last week was the contract extension for Kansas Athletic Director Travis Goff, that he agreed to the new 7-year deal. How big is that for Kansas overall? Like, obviously what he's been able to do during his time is worthy of a 7-year deal. Where do you put that into perspective?
Well, it's huge. And I was talking to someone about this last week. You look at Kansas, right? This is probably the most tumultuous time in college sports, right? There's not a lot of continuity. You've got college coaches jumping into the pro ranks. You've got athletic directors retiring, getting out of the sport in general. And you have Travis Goff, Bill Self, and Lance Leipold all locked into long-term contracts. It's a really healthy position for Kansas athletics to be in, period. And when you compare to where it was, a few years ago with Jeff Long, and there was Les Miles and David Bates, it's just, you think back, right? And it's kind of crazy to think about how far things have come. And that's a huge credit to Travis Goff, the people he has hired and subsequently empowered to be able to help make this athletic department, I think, the most successful it has been in a very, very long time. So obviously that is something that needed to be rewarded. It's something that I think I got a lot of questions about, I think, over the last few months of, hey, when is this going to come up? Well, there was a period basically in the contract, a 3-year look in, where then they're able to come in and make this extension happen. So it's huge news for KU, right? Continuity is such a buzzword in college athletics, and KU's going to have a lot of that.
You mentioned Leipold, you mentioned Bill Self, you didn't mention Brandon Snyder. He signed a 2-year extension last week. The KU women's basketball program over the last couple of years has continued to flourish, and that's obviously why he got this extension, right?
Yeah, I think so. And you look at the progress, right? And you think about having Samaya, right? Someone that can be a star in women's college basketball, and they're starting to build this team around her. And I think it's the right move, right? The last thing I think KU wants to do is have a star like that and have it be maybe a transitional phase of the program, where if you have a new coach, right, there's a new year of trying to learn out how they play, to recruit the type of players that coach wants, right? That's not how you want to spend the years of having someone that can be a star in the women's college basketball landscape. So I think it's a really smart move. I think now it's just going to come down to consistently recruiting at a high level to build the team around Samaya that can allow her to flourish, and then the team subsequently to win games as well.
You reported earlier today that they picked up another transfer commitment from Butler Community College transfer Freddie Wallace. She's averages 18.4 in the JUCO ranks. What about her made it attractive for her to go to KU?
Well, honestly, I think so. She's a forward, 6'2", 6'3", so not quite as tall as Twin was last year, but that's what KU needs. You look at the perimeter and you look at what KU's added, right? It's a lot of people who average 15 plus points at the previous school. Well, what KU needed was a forward that can play the 5 spot and allow Samaya to play the 4, and you fill in shooters around her. So I think it's a needed addition, right? I think, front court depth was going to be an issue this offseason. It seems like that is one of the things that this addition can help fill. I still probably have some concerns about it. I'll be fascinated to see if there's any other sort of additions maybe that could happen before the start of the school year, but it's definitely a big one, right? You look at the numbers, right? 18 points, 8 rebounds, like that's pretty legit production, right? At the junior college level. So it's a good addition for KU. And again, front court is a huge priority. And this probably fills part of that need.
Finishing things up with Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Head over to Fog.net for all of Michael's great KU coverage. Also, make sure you're following him on Twitter at mswain247. On the recruiting scene for football, Michael, Juju Marks, the newest Jayhawk, he committed to KU earlier this weekend, and despite a whole lot of weirdness and toxicity on Twitter, it was a big deal for KU to land a local player with that kind of profile. What is KU getting in the now Olathe South product?
Yeah, toxicity on Twitter? Really?
Yeah, unbelievable, so right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's someone that is a legit prospect. You can't doubt the talent that Juju Marks has, right? There's a reason he had 30 offers, opportunities to play at, Alabama, Oklahoma, places like that. And recruiting's weird nowadays, right? These schools do offer a lot of players, but the offer still shows that coaching staff believes you could play at that school. And so I think Juju's just got a lot of talent, right? 6'6", 6'10" wingspan that's been officially measured, great length. He's a smooth athlete, basketball player in his background. Just all the things you look for in a modern offensive tackle is what Juju has. And it's going to be about unlocking that potential at KU. And I think, look, if you're going to talk about coaching staffs that can unlock potential, I don't think I can think of too many better, than this KU staff with their ability and what they've done with some other players. So, Juju has all the traits to be a multi-year starter at a place like KU. And it's going to come down to, I think, himself and the coaching staff really working hard over the first kind of 3 years to get him to that point.
In terms of in-state recruiting this year, does this feel like probably the top prospect in the state that KU will be able to land?
Well, don't forget about Brandon Schmelze. He plays 8-man football. He's someone that will take an official to Kansas this summer. Huge bummer for him. He does track. He got an injury where he was going to camp at KU last week. He was going to camp in Nebraska, camp at K-State. I think he's the type of guy that would have gotten a lot of camp offers, right? I think some college coaches are probably a little hesitant to offer off of 8-man football tape, regardless of, probably your takes on, hey, you can show you how good you are regardless of how many players are on the field, right? But it's still something that makes college coaches hesitant. So KU's still on him. He'll take an official to KU this summer. He's another one that the Jayhawks are definitely still on.
How crazy is it? Just speaking of local recruiting in general, not necessarily for KU, but I know you've got a great grip on just what recruiting in this state is like. 24/7 right now, Michael, you guys have 32 5-star prospects for the class of 25, 2 of them in Kansas. That is unbelievable.
It is. And look, I think talent is everywhere. And I think it speaks to probably the scouting. I think that is done these days with guys doing camps. Obviously, we have people all over the country that go to these things. It reminds me of, Iowa 2 years ago. I had 2 5-stars in Xavier and Wongpai and Caden Proctor, who obviously become famous for transferring from Alabama to Iowa and then back to Alabama. But I think it just goes to show, right? Midwest has plenty of talent, and guys like Lincoln Cure, I think maybe 10, 15 years ago would have probably gone under the radar, right? Living out in Goodland. I think it's credit to, everyone involved, right? Lincoln for obviously putting in the work to get to that point. College coaches getting out there to see him in person, and then obviously as well, guys like that work for us that get out, scout, see these people in person as well.
24/7 and CBS, obviously partner companies, and CBS Sports the last 2 days has put out a couple of rankings of the best position groups on offense in college football. Yesterday, it was running backs. Today, it was a list of the best wide receiver groups. KU ended up third for best running backs, and then an honorable mention, effectively top 10 for wide receivers. Do you think those rankings are accurate for this KU offense?
I think so. It's something that, you look at what KU has in terms of running back room, right? Devin Neal will be one of the best running backs in college football. Daniel Highshaw has incredible production. And then you look at some of maybe the question marks in the room. It's Devion Morrison, who's a 4-star prospect coming out of high school, has the talent, just hasn't been able to stay healthy. You got younger guys like, Johnny Thompson. Obviously, we talked about Harry Stewart in the past, right? It's a really loaded running back room. And then obviously wide receiver, everyone knows, right? Basically, KU's top 4 are back. The 5th guy, Doug Emillion, could go and start, I think, probably some other Big 12 schools right now. I think someone like Keaton Quebecca's got a bright future. So, you look at both those position groups, right? I think every KU fan knows what the Jayhawks have in it, but I think it's also a huge credit, I think, to the program that's getting that national recognition, where I think if KU had some of this stuff, 5 years ago and they're winning 2 games, you don't get the same type of recognition when you're losing all the games, right? So I think obviously these things kind of go hand in hand, but I think it's a hugely positive thing that, we're here in, June right now, and we can talk about, hey, KU's got some really talented players that national media outlets are picking up on.
I know you know this because you've covered the team for years. You've been around this program for a long time, Michael. But when I was reading the piece from Tom Fornelli at CBS yesterday, and he wrote, Devin Neal's one of the best players in the best running backs in the country, and he's under the radar. Like, only if you're not paying attention at this point. I don't disagree with him. And I know KU is not Oklahoma. It's not USC. It's not Georgia. I get that. But like you said, with recruiting, talent is everywhere. If you know anything about the quality of running backs in college football, he should be at the very top of your list. And I admit that I am biased by that. But, put on the film. This dude is among the very best in the country, regardless of where he plays.
Again, you're asking fans to turn on the film, man. That's not happening. It's very regional. That's the fun part of college sports, still, is that they, as much as the conferences try and make this very national, it is very regional, right? People in the Midwest and who know the Big 12 know who Devin Neal is. I don't think your average Alabama fan is going to know who Devin Neal is. And I think that will change this season, right? I think it changed last season with someone like Ollie Gordon becoming a household name because of the fact that at Oklahoma State, he was putting up such insane numbers and was getting into some of the biggest conversations you can have in college sports. I think something similar like that could happen for Devin Neal this year, where then you do become a legitimate household name and not just a name that people know because they know the Big 12 or know Kansas football.
Michael Swain covers KU for Fog.net. It's part of 24/7 Sports. You can also find him on Twitter at mswain247. He joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly here on the show. Michael, as always, man, we appreciate the time, and congratulations on the engagement. Happy for you, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
That's Michael Swain from Fog.net. 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis, Trenton Craxner here with you today, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Dan Lucero is out this week. He is on paternity leave. Busy 5 o'clock hour coming up for you before we are out of here. Royals baseball coming up tonight, 6:30 pregame start time, 7:10 first pitch. Royals versus Yankees game 2. We will preview the game coming up a little bit later on this hour. We also will get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines and hear from Chiefs linebacker Drew Tranquill coming up in this final hour. We'd love for you to be a part of the show. You can do so by hitting us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. And of course, you can also find us on YouTube. Head to YouTube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the channel while you are there, and then you can watch along with the show. You can comment along with the show. Let us know your thoughts on whatever we're talking about. A couple of people have subscribed so far today. We appreciate you guys. 564. We'll get to 580 by the time Dan's back. Easy.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
We'll get it. We'll figure out a way.
Also, update people, I'm still working to acquire a Cowboys sweatshirt from Bradley J of Big 94.5 Country.
Yeah, he's giving it a hard time.
He says he's bringing it in tomorrow. We'll see. He also said yesterday he was going to bring it in today. So we'll see. He is giving me a hard time, even though I went and asked him before I even went on the air with this. And I said, hey, if we do this and we beat this milestone, do you have something Cowboys related I could wear on the show? Yeah, I can do that. And then now he's giving me crap for it. So I don't understand.
We will have that bet paid out, though. That will be paid out. So
I'm trying.
Yes, putting forth our best effort. So if you want to go and check out the show on YouTube, again, 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. Let's start with news from NFL mandatory mini camp. Some began yesterday. Some are beginning today. Let's get to the big news, which is players who did not show up to their respective mandatory mini camps today. Number one, Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. He is looking for a new contract. He is entering the final year of his deal. He is not showing up and thus is subject to fines. Amari, how old do you think Amari Cooper is? If you had to guess, how old is Amari Cooper?
30.
He is, I believe, older. No, he's actually, wow, all right. Major props. He turns 30 in 6 days.
Dang, I was close.
Next Monday,
so close.
He will turn 30 years old. So he's actually, I thought he was going to be 31 or 32. So yeah, he's looking for probably one more huge contract. He is a 5-time Pro Bowler. Was also the third in the voting for Offensive Rookie of the Year back in 2015. He's a good player. I would classify him as an okay wide receiver 1, probably. I mean, for his career, he's got 7, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7,000-yard seasons in his career, including a career high 1,250 this past season in just 15 games. He's durable. He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. When he's on, he's a good player. He's just not on enough for me personally. He is looking for a new contract from the Browns. We'll see if he does indeed end up getting it. Additionally, from the Jets, 2 key players who missed out on minicamp today. One is Hassan Reddick. He is not there because of a contract dispute. Now,
that was been reported, I think, the last day or two that he wasn't expected to be there.
Yeah, because he didn't show up to voluntary OTAs the last 3 weeks either. He was traded this offseason from the Eagles to the Jets. He is still looking for another year on his contract. Hassan Reddick, after he left Arizona, where they were using him completely the wrong way, which is just ridiculous and is so Arizona Cardinals, it's unbelievable. He was really good. Well, he had that 1 year in Carolina in 2021 where he had 11 sacks. Then in 22, when the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl, he had a career-high 16 sacks, forced 5 fumbles, was a second-team All-Pro, and then this past season had 11 sacks, again, played every game for the Eagles. He's been a Pro Bowler each of the last 2 years. He's a good player. He is also going to turn 30 this year. His birthday, 20 days after mine, September 22nd. That's Is that Dan's birthday or is Dan the 25th? He's also late September. But anyway, Hassan Reddick's looking for a new deal. If I'm the Jets, here's an interesting place to be if you're the Jets. You need to make the playoffs this year or everyone is fired. Robert Saleh's fired. Nathaniel Hackett. I don't even know who their defensive coordinator is. They're both getting fired. You might figure out what you're going to do post Aaron Rodgers, because if they don't make the playoffs, it's probably because Rodgers isn't good enough. We'll get to him momentarily. You're getting rid of everyone. Do you, in that building, put yourself right now in the shoes of Joe Douglas, their general manager. Put yourself in his shoes. Knowing the roster you have, knowing that Rodgers is one of the all-time greats, but is coming off the Achilles tear, knowing that Robert Saleh is kind of whatever as a head coach, knowing that you are the Jets, would you give a contract to Hassan Reddick right now, knowing that everybody might be fired, knowing that you yourself might even be fired if you miss the playoffs this year?
Well, if you yourself are fired, then what does it matter, right?
That's a fair point.
So just give it to him, I guess.
That is a fair point. I would pay him. I think he's a really good player. He has, over the last 3 years, posted 38 sacks. That is tremendous. In fact, let's go to the last 4 years when he's posted 50.5 sacks in 4 years. His first 3 years combined, he had 7.5. He had really turned it on once he left Arizona. What a surprise. I would pay the dude. I told you we would talk about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was at all the voluntary OTAs. He, however, is not at mandatory minicamp for what Robert Saleh called a previous engagement that was important to him and is indeed subject to fines.
I swear, if it is a conspiracy podcast, then I'm losing the little bit of respect I had for Aaron Rodgers left.
Aaron Rodgers finally shows up on Joe Rogan. And he had to skip practice to go do it. I don't know if that's why. I don't know if he's going to show up at some Robert F. Kennedy Jr. rally or what.
Where in the world is Aaron Rodgers?
I saw a guy I know from Twitter who's a beat writer from the Jets, Antoine Staley. He tweeted earlier today that the next 2 days are going to be the Tyrod Taylor show at Jets camp. I guess they're not going to practice Thursday, just today and tomorrow for actual
a lot
practice.
of teams are doing that these days, where if they had good turnout at voluntary and then mandatory's there and everything looks good, then you don't practice most teams do that unless you have a new coach.
Yeah, which makes sense, I think, on all accounts.
Yeah.
He said that it's going to be Tyrod Taylor's show each of the next 2 days, which, like, what? Rodgers has made enough money in his career that he doesn't need to get the workout bonuses from minicamp. Dude,
and he can pay the fine.
Aaron Rodgers is still probably my favorite player of all time because a lot of good memories with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback of my favorite team. I had the jersey. I've got the print of his great throw on third down to Greg Jennings, Super Bowl 45, in my parents' room my bedroom at my parents' house back in LaGrange Park, Illinois. Like, I loved the dude.
One of his best friends doesn't even know where he is.
Pat McAfee?
No, AJ Hawk.
Oh, AJ Hawk.
He said today, I have no idea where Aaron Rodgers could be.
Like, dude, it was just or was it earlier this offseason, or was it late last season when he said that they had to get the BS out of the locker room and had to focus on football?
I think it was late last season when he was trying to come back.
Dude, your career's on the line at this point. You're a 40-year-old coming off a torn Achilles. Everybody else in that building, their job relies on you being good this year. And you're just going to disappear and not show up at mandatory minicamp. I have a friend, he covers the Packers, but he says this about teams in general, and I actually agree with him fully. Whether it's mandatory minicamp or voluntary OTAs, if you're anyone else, if you're player 2 through 90 on the offseason roster, voluntary workouts in the offseason are voluntary. Show up if you want, skip them if you want. Who cares? They are voluntary. The only player that does not count for is your starting quarterback, or any quarterback, but especially your starting quarterback. You've got to be there. Your responsibility goes beyond getting a good offseason workout in. You are playing the most important position in all of sports. The glamour position, the important position, the valuable position. You're getting paid the most. You are the leader of men on that team. You have got to be there. So don't tell me that you got to get the BS out of the locker room and then you're going to disappear from mandatory minicamp for God only knows what.
That's can't wait to see what this comes out to be.
Oh, it's going to be ridiculous. It is going to be absolutely ridiculous. By the way, the other player I had written down who did not show up at his respective mandatory minicamp today, Randy Gregory. What a shock that of all players, Randy Gregory wouldn't show up. His head coach, Todd Bowles, said it is an unexcused absence, would not go any deeper than that as to why he was not showing up. Oh, man. People keep giving him chances despite so many reasons why they should not keep giving Randy Gregory chances.
Exactly.
So those are your updates from mandatory minicamp today.
My first headline, continuing in the NFL, we have a Madden 25 cover athlete. It is Christian McCaffrey. I'm not shocked by this, although Madden teased a clip late last week or early yesterday, and it was someone saying EA Sports, it's in the game, and I swear to you it sounded like Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I can't, like, I've heard both of them talk or speak, but I can't differentiate between their voices in my head. So I don't know if I never saw the video, so I wouldn't know. I would not be surprised if at some point in his career, Joe Burrow was on the cover of Madden.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be healthy. That is obviously important. Heck of an offseason for McCaffrey. I think he either got or is getting married. He
got that extension.
Got $38 million more from the 49ers, Madden cover athlete.
His brother got drafted.
His brother did get way higher than anyone expected him to get drafted, in fact.
I believe he got the call. I believe they called his brother. I believe they called CMC.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, can you hand the phone to your brother?"
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
He's a star. He is the best running back in the NFL. I'm hopeful that he can play for a long time. I am fascinated when we get later in his career if they actually move him to slot.
Oh yeah.
I think he could do it. There are receivers out there who are good receiving running backs, like Austin Eckler, who's now with your favorite team. I think he's lost a lot of juice, but he was always a good receiving running back. But those guys mostly are running arrow routes, swings, screens, tunnel screen, things like that. McCaffrey can actually run the entire route tree, which is a really valuable skill. I would not be surprised when he gets into his 30s if they try to move him into the slot to extend his career. I would not be surprised at all. Do you buy Madden every year?
When I was a kid, yes. I've not bought it since 2018.
Trenton, are you a Madden player?
I am. I have Madden 24.
Do you, are you a pre-order, gotta have it, deluxe edition kind of guy?
Not at all.
I like Madden. I enjoy playing it. I know people have a lot of critiques about the game. I enjoy playing it. I just love football. But I also don't have an up-to-date console, and I'm not going to spend $600 to get one game and a console. That is not in the cards for me right now.
It's 2 games though, right? College football.
Oh, we gotta get college
and
football
Madden.
too. Yeah. Okay. So you bundle it all together, you're spending like $650 for a console and 2 games.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I am
probably
not in a position where I can afford
probably
that.
a little bit more because you'd have to buy the non-digital version because
That's right.
want the hard copies of the game.
I am going to give you a PSA. I don't know if I've brought this up on the show before. I was talking to you and Bradley J in the office earlier today. Physical media is the way to go. Purchasing physical copies of games, of movies, if you can, of music, whatever. I have Spotify. I understand. It's easy. It's convenient. You pay $10 a month or whatever it is. No ads. All that, great. It's right in the palm of your hands. I understand wanting to download a video game, save space. You don't have cases all over the place. I understand, I don't need to buy movies now because they're all on Netflix or Hulu or HBO or Peacock or God only knows what else, Pluto TV, whatever. Buy physical copies. The big corporations, the oligarchs, they can't take that away from you. They can't say, technically you owned a license to play the game. You didn't own the game itself, and we're going to pull it away from you. No, You own it. That is yours. No one can ever take it away from you. Physical media, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm going on a tangent. That is the important part. And Spencer, you are absolutely right. If it costs more to buy the physical game, I'm buying the disc. I'm buying the cart, whatever it is. I want the physical media in my hand.
Yeah, it's just going to run you more because now these consoles have digital only editions where they don't have disc slots and they're a little bit cheaper.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that. Yeah. I've got a bunch of friends with PS5s. I just don't have one because I can't afford it. Are you going to buy 25?
Probably not. I'll probably get an update in like NBA 2K or something like that. Because I have the new Madden. I got the show 23, so maybe I'll go NBA. I haven't had a new NBA game.
Football?
Maybe.
Do like an every other year for each game?
I haven't had a new NBA game since 2019. It's been a long time since I've got a new NBA game. But I'm okay playing games that aren't completely up to date.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Always have been. Next headline for me on today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. How about this? The WNBA announcing some new attendance and viewership figures. We were talking yesterday on the show about how frustrated I am with all the nonsensical Caitlin Clark discourse.
Yeah, so I think this actually came out while you were talking about that.
Did it actually?
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
I didn't get a chance to throw it in there.
So the WNBA, in their first month of the 2024 season, they drew their highest attendance since the league's second year in existence in 1998, and they have scored their best month-long television ratings in history. This is the writing of the Associated Press. The figures are the latest evidence in the surging popularity of the WNBA since it added prominent rookies including Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink, all of whom drew big audiences playing in college. Across all of their media partners, WNBA games are averaging 1.32 million viewers, nearly tripling their last season average of 462,000.
Wow.
Coley Edison, who is the WNBA's chief growth officer, said what's happening now in women's basketball is confirmation of what we've always known. The demand is there, and women's sports is a valuable investment. We are encouraged by growing engagement across all our verticals, especially as we welcome new and diverse audiences into our fandom. The WNBA continues to experience sustained growth as our league embraces this heightened momentum. We had somebody comment on YouTube a week or two ago. It must have been more than a week ago. I wasn't here last week.
2 weeks ago.
It must have been 2 weeks ago. I think it was our buddy Vance on YouTube who said, like, wow, what a crazy thought that if you actually made these things viewable and easy to access and had stars that people care about, people are going to tune in. Yeah. I don't know why it has taken them so long to actually market themselves well. And Caitlin Clark is such a superstar that it's built in. But like, hey, you might not like Angel Reese, but sports need bad guys. Every great rivalry in sports has a bad guy and a good guy, generally speaking. Cameron Brink, awesome. Plays for the Los Angeles Sparks. She was great at Stanford. She is a hell of a player. All sorts of good young talent in the league. Carmelo Cardoso is going to be back very soon, I think, for Chicago as well. It's a fun league. And if summertime, if you are maybe tuned out of baseball or you're just looking for a game, it's an off day and you're just looking for some sort of live sporting event, throw it on. It's worthwhile. It's a good product. It's a short season, too. They end in the early fall. I'm pretty sure their finals are done right before the NBA season starts. So it's a nice little quick sprint in the summer. It's a good product. So good for them. I'm also not surprised. Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in America right now. I am not surprised she is generating that kind of attention.
Yeah. My next headline is something that's happening in less than a month on the 4th of July. One of the best 4th of July traditions is probably going to look a lot different this year. Joey Chestnut, the 16-time champion of Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest, will not compete in the annual 4th of July event next month. Major League Eating announced on Tuesday. A spokesman for the MLE, as they can go by, told ESPN that Chestnut had chosen to, quote, represent another hot dog brand and therefore would not be allowed to participate in the Nathan's contest, which is held annually on Coney Island. He decided to go with a vegan hot dog company, and he wanted to try and get those dogs as something he was able to eat during the contest, and that was a big not allowed. But there's also conflicting reports about this, that he's not banned. He just, if he chose to not eat the vegan hot dogs, then he'd be able to be in it. But
yeah, so this, at first it seemed like, oh, come on, it's just a sponsor thing. But I kind of think it's this Chestnut's own fault based on that information. Like, if you just want to be sponsored by them, that's one thing. But if you are saying, I want to eat something different, because if we're being honest, and I can't believe I'm getting this deep into the weeds in terms of competitive eating, if we're being honest here, that changes the whole complexion of the event, doesn't it? If you're eating something that's made of different material than everyone else.
I would say so, yes.
I feel like that changes things, even if it makes it more difficult to eat all those hot dogs. I feel like that's a bigger challenge for you, or just a bigger challenge to make sure that the contest is all equal. I think I might side with Major League Eating here. I think I'm on their side. You got to keep it all fair.
Yeah.
If Dan was here, I will tell you this, because there's always some piece of news when the hot dog eating contest comes up. Dan would be throwing up in a garbage can as we talked about this. He is so anti hot dog eating contest and competitive eating. Not his favorite thing. When you said one of the best traditions, he would have freaked out. Do you watch it every year?
I mean, I watch the highlights. I'm a little busy sometimes. At least the last few years I've been busy calling baseball games, so maybe watch it this year. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. All right, time to wrap up our headlines. Let's get to today's playoff roundup.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
All right, no NBA action tonight. They do not get back in action until tomorrow. There is no need for a layoff this long. They're professional athletes. We already know. All right.
We already talked
about this yesterday. All right, so Kristaps Porzingis, though, of the Boston Celtics, who lead the Mavericks 2-0 in the NBA Finals, he has suffered. I can't believe this is a real thing. According to Shams Charania of The Athletic and FanDuel, the Celtics' Kristaps Porzingis suffered a torn medial retinaculum, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon.
What did you just say?
That is so fake and made up. I can't even believe it. He then went on to say the Celtics say Porzingis is day-to-day for the NBA Finals with a rare injury unrelated to his previous calf strain. Shams, I'm going to give you a little tip here. I know you are very popular. You have a big following and all of that. Lead with the information that he is day-to-day. Start with that information, please. Yeah. That save everybody the mental energy there. So that is the update there. I assume he is going to keep playing. This is like when Luka Doncic was designated as questionable for the game the other night. Nah, man, Luka's playing. Come on, Luka's playing. From the NHL, they were in action last night, and the Florida Panthers, after it was 1-1 with 14 minutes or so left in the third period, they blew the doors off of the Edmonton Oilers in the back half of the third period last night. They win 4-1. Evan Rodriguez with a pair of goals. Sergei Bobrovsky, only gave up one goal. That's generally enough to win. Only had to face 19 shots on goal the entire game from that crazy good offense from Edmonton. The Panthers now lead the Oilers 2-0. Is it over?
I don't know. Edmonton's going home.
You mentioned yesterday, first time in a long time they've had travel from that's as long for a cup final as Edmonton to Sunrise, Florida. It's actually the longest. It is the longest trip ever in terms of travel during a Stanley Cup final. I'm going to say it's over. I'm going to totally flip the script. I picked Edmonton to win last night. I said I don't necessarily trust Bobrovsky. He has now done it multiple games in a row. And I am going to say that the hot goalie is going to get the win. It's 2-0. I think my pick was wrong, and Florida is going to win.
I think Edmonton could get a game at it's 2-2. Is it 2-2?
I think they go 2-2-2-1.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 2-2-1-1-1, I think.
Yeah. So if it's 2 games in Edmonton, I think they take 1. And then the series ends the first game back at Florida.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. Edmonton's got to win both. Yeah. They've got to win both at home. Otherwise, going to be an early end of the season.
Did you
for the
see in Edmonton what the McDonald's has said they'll do?
No.
if they somehow win the Stanley Cup this year, they'll rename the Edmonton McDonald's McDavid's.
That's a good promotion. That's good stuff. Love that. That'll do it for the playoff roundup, and that'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines today. When we come back on the other side of this commercial break, we'll hear from Drew Tranquil. Plus, we will get to some comments from YouTube and some texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line as well. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Got a couple of comments here from Jason on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. The first one regarding our college football conversation from earlier. Being a Cat fan, I am really excited about Jayhawk football. Love the coach and the direction they're going. I am curious to see how Arrowhead looks on Saturdays. I do love the new stadium, the look of the new stadium. I'm excited for what the stadium will look like. I don't love that they're playing at Arrowhead for myriad reasons we've been over before. A major one being the fact that they're playing on the other side of the state line, and I think it's going to be hard to fill 70,000 for KU football. But either way, this is the nice part of the rivalry that I was talking about yesterday that we don't get enough. This is the best time maybe ever to be into college football in the state when you've got KU on this upward trajectory. K-State's right there at the top of the conference as well. It's fun. It is really exciting to have two teams 45 minutes west and 35 minutes east of us who are both contending at the top of the Big 12. It is something we've almost never had.
Are they playing the game in Manhattan or?
It'll be Manhattan this year, yeah.
That would be crazy if it just happened to be the year that it was in.
At Arrowhead?
At Arrowhead?
Oh, yeah, it would fill up.
Yeah.
It would sell out for that game. I'm certain of that.
That'd be crazy, then.
Yeah, KU gets Iowa State at home or at Arrowhead this year. It might. Trenton asked if that game would sell out. It might, honestly. Iowa State fans travel like absolute crazy. I would not be shocked. if that one did end up selling out. Jason also mentions from YouTube, being a Dolphins fan, I'm more worried about the Jets than Buffalo. I don't know, just a feeling. I get that, though. Buffalo, I think, is in something of a retooling year. I think they will be good. I think they will contend for the playoffs. I do not think they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender, even with Josh Allen. They just have to rebuild so much. I think this draft and next year's draft will go a long way, and next year's free agency, too, to helping them rebuild the core of that roster. On paper, the Jets have a really good team. Probably the best team in that division, frankly. We know the defense is nasty, and Saleh, for his problems as a head coach, is a great defensive coach. Aaron Rodgers is going to the Hall of Fame. You could argue he's one of the top 5 of all time, certainly one of the top 10 of all time. They've got a legit, no doubt, number 1 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, who is awesome. They've spent a lot of money to improve their offensive line and a lot of draft capital, too. They've got a legit RB1, speaking of Iowa State, in Breece Hall. They added Mike Williams, who's your number 2. That's a good number 2 when he's on the field. Can they stay healthy? Can they stop themselves from being the Jets? Historically speaking, the answer is no. They will not be able to stop themselves from being the Jets, but obviously we will see. We're talking NFL. Let's talk some Kansas City Chiefs football, shall we? Drew Tranquill was the 3rd Chiefs player who spoke to the media earlier today. Let's hear what the newly re-signed starting linebacker Drew Tranquill had to say at One Arrowhead Drive.
You re-signed you, it seems like, you're kind of Mr. Kansas City now. I mean, just what is it like, embracing everything after this past season?
That's exciting to think I'm Mr. Kansas City. No, my family, we just love it here. Our kids love it here. We love this place. We're excited to be here for the next 3 years.
As you went through last year, when did it become, it seemed at a certain point it became obvious you wanted to be here past that year. When did that become obvious to you? When did you start to realize, okay, I want to do this in the long term?
I mean, I think going into free agency, 2 years ago now, I mean, when you have a wife and 3 kids, you don't want to move your family around. And so, I was, wanting to be in LA and then obviously come here and fall in love with the people here and the coaching staff and my teammates. So I knew kind of after training camp, I was like, this is fun. I was, finding my love for the game again. And certainly when you go on to win a Super Bowl and do it at the highest level, you certainly want to be back.
Was there anything after being here, and you mentioned you enjoyed it early, after being here for a full year that it surprised you that you didn't know that would be maybe different from anywhere you've been before?
I don't know that anything surprised me. I think there's a championship culture here, and that starts at the top with our ownership all the way down to our players, and it's very apparent. You see guys like Travis, who's going into his 12th year, and dude just loves to practice. And that's just uncommon. And I think those uncommon characteristics are everywhere in this organization. And you pick up on those, and it makes you better. And, hopefully we can keep that going into this year.
Sure. How makes you say that Travis loves to practice when you see from him?
Just his energy. I mean, you'd think he's a little kid out there. Just vocals, body language, in and out of the huddle, run on the field. I hinged, covered him on an over out today. He's saying, man, great job on that coverage. What'd you see? Just little aspects of the game still, strike his curiosity, and he's always looking to become better. And you don't see that when guys are as great as he is and have accomplished as much as he's accomplished. I think there tends to be some complacency that can creep in, but you don't see that with guys like Trav and Pat and Chris and all of our best players. They're constantly looking to ascend and be great.
Were you surprised you saw that first from Travis last year? That sort of curiosity always?
Well, I've been losing to him and getting beat by him for a few years. And so I wasn't surprised. I think to be great, you have to have that. You look at anybody that's great, certainly they have talent, but it's that constant drive to get better and better that, will prevail and keep you at the top.
Drew, we talked to a number of guys on defense, and they've mentioned for a lot of them, it's either year 3 or year 4 in the system. Obviously, it's your second.
Yeah.
Just what can you see right now that tells you all that you all are advancing in progress, on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, I think our ability just to play off one another, a lot of it's pre-snap communication, that's dialed in. And so we're just advancing in the nuances and the details and being able to do more things within each call. And as you evolve in a defense, you're able to do that and give the quarterback a lot of different looks. And so, evolving our disguise packages and whatnot. But it's great being out there with guys who have been in it for so long. You starts in the middle with Nick and, goes all around our defense.
Drew, did they tell you today that BJ got out of the hospital?
Yeah, we heard he slept in his own bed last night, which was great. And yeah, he seems to just be progressing, which is such a blessing.
So how was that received when they told you that?
I'm very excited.
On the field, just for you, I mean, now it's going to be you in the nickel role, pretty much. Just how are you adjusting to learning the playbook from last year? Because I know for some guys it can be a little difficult to pick up.
Yeah, I think last year, obviously having to be thrust into the Mike position for a large stint of the year, I'd call that probably the most difficult position in our defense. And so, you know, at the will and at the buck, I kind of knew those things, and we're doing those things and kind of cross training. And so it's been nice to be able to focus a little bit more on that. I still have to know Mike, but it's been fun. I've been able to kind of focus on some more technique things and develop in my game.
Drew, have you seen anything about the Super Bowl ring and how excited are you to get that later this week?
I haven't. I heard it's bigger. That's the only thing I've heard.
Couple more.
When it comes to the chemistry and the team, how important is it to have guys like Isaiah that are competitive and they're needlers and they're going to talk trash and everything? It's helping to kind of keep the team on edge and trying to keep striving.
Yeah, I mean, the days get long. I mean, especially up at St. Joe and training camp, and we call them the dog days. But when you have guys who love to practice, guys who like to chip back and forth and talk back and forth, it just keeps the energy up, keeps it light, keeps the focus in. And we have so many of those guys on our team, offense, defense, and special teams. It makes it fun for sure.
Drew, I read in Sports Illustrated you were listed as one of the most underappreciated players. What do you think when you hear that?
I'm just trying to get better every day, and I hope to be remembered as a great player and a great teammate. And you know, you just got to come to work each and every day, and that story will be written, you know, when my playing days are done. But there's still a lot of work left to be done, and a lot, you know, left that I want to accomplish.
Just on the Super Bowl ring, I know that this is something that's happening this week. You're unique, right, in the sense that you're getting your first one. Just what are you anticipating when it comes to getting to see it for the first time?
I'm looking forward to an awesome date night with my wife out in the great city of Kansas City, and I'm sure when I unbox that ring, it's going to be special. You know, there's going to be a sentimental value attached to that you can't necessarily replicate, and so it's going to be a fun night with teammates. You know, seeing guys that are no longer here anymore and be able to reunite with those guys. It's going to be fun.
Awesome, DJ.
Drew, I know you used to have the podcast. Just
yeah.
Do you think you'll ever get back to that? And then just what have you done over this past offseason?
Well, I'll address the second part of the question first. You know, we moved, new house. So a lot of moving, a lot of unboxing. Man, I moved 5 times in 5 years. Hopefully we can set our roots a little bit. But man, just done a lot of swimming with the kids, hung out with my wife, you know, just enjoyed family, enjoyed, you know, getting to come to work for OTAs. Yeah, it's been a great off season, and looking forward to the next part.
No podcast coming back?
I forgot the first. I was like, what was the first part of the question? We'll see, man. There's so many great podcasters out there. I had so much fun doing it. We had our 3rd daughter, and I went to that off season. I'm like, man, like we have 3 kids now. And I was like, my bandwidth, you only have so much time, and I had to hang the podcast up, but we'll see. I had a ton of fun doing it, and there's a lot of cool guys to interview in here. So we'll see. Hey, thanks guys.
Okay. All that tells me is that Drew Tranquil can't hang. Oh, 3 kids. I'm so busy. I can't podcast. You ain't made for this grind. You ain't made for this content creation grind, Drew. I'm just kidding. That sounds like a lot of work. And not to mention training and working out and, you know, playing in the NFL. Drew Tranquil is such a fascinating story to me. A guy who realistically the Chiefs never should have been able to get. Like he should have been signed. He should have been one of the guys who was signed to a contract before free agency technically starts. The Chargers never should have let him go in the first place. And he so quickly endeared himself to the Chiefs fan base, to Kansas City. I mean, you heard right there.
They called him Mr. Kansas City.
For a guy who's been here for a year. He was signed, what would that have been? Like 15 months ago? Yeah. It's incredible. He's stud, too. He deserved that multi-year contract the Chiefs gave him, and happy for him. And it sounds like he and his family are very happy in Kansas City, and I hope his level of play continues to reflect how positively he feels about the team and about the fan base in Kansas City as well.
And maybe he can jump back into the podcast game if he has a little bit of time.
Yeah, when, you know, I can't. Oh my gosh. I never listened to Drew Tranquil's podcast.
I didn't even know he had a podcast.
I was completely unaware that he had a podcast, in fact. Coming up next, we'll get you ready for game 2 between the Royals and Yankees tonight from the K. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Sports Talk rolling on a Tuesday afternoon. Brendan Spencer and Trenton here with you. Royals baseball coming up in just a little bit. Pregame begins at 6:30. First pitch at 7:10. You'll be able to hear pregame, postgame, and the game itself here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We'll have some 580 Sports Talk overtime coming your way. We'll listen back to our conversation from earlier today with Jordan Foote of Arrowhead Report and One Royals Way coming up at the top of the hour. Your Royals lineup tonight, it is better than last night. I will say that. It's not perfect, but now that Massey is hurt, now that Renfroe is also hurt, you don't have Adam Frazier, you're hamstrung a little bit. Michael Garcia leads off at third. Witt hitting second at short. Vinny P, he's back in at first base hitting third. Salvi catching in the cleanup spot. MJ Melendez in the 5-hole. That's interesting. Nelson Velasquez DHing, hitting sixth. Drew Waters makes his season debut in right field. Nick Lofton batting eighth today. He's at second base again. Kyle Isbell manning center field. Brady Singer on the bump for the Kansas City Royals tonight. Again, first pitch at 7:10. Pregame begins at 6:30. I'm excited to see what Drew Waters is able to do in this game. Trenton, you were telling me a stat a little bit earlier that nobody except Salvi has faced Marcus Stroman, the Yankee starter, correct?
Yeah, and Salvi's only 1 for 9. So
Hampson has.
But Hampson's not
starting, though.
Yeah.
No one in the starting lineup has. Yeah. That's
0 for 6.
0 for 6?
No, 1 for 6.
1 for 6.
167 average.
Okay, so the Royals combined, every guy on the roster is 2 for 15.
I think it's 1 for 12.
I thought Salvi was 1 for 9.
Salvi's 1 for 6, and Hampson's 0 for 6.
Oh, okay, even worse.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Even worse. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for the best. Now, who's going for the Yankees? Who's on the mound tonight?
Stroman.
Oh, I literally just said Marcus Stroman. Excuse me. Look, I don't think Marcus Stroman's that good. I will be honest. He's fine. He's an okay middle of the rotation guy. If you just were looking at the basic box score numbers, 5-2 record, 3.04 ERA. He's got 57 strikeouts for the year. That's just 9 short of Brady Singer. He's gotten a lot of help from the Yankees in the field, which is funny because the Yankees are not an especially good fielding team, all things considered. Although Volpe's got a great glove at short. He is a dude. The state of shortstops in the American League right now, awesome.
Crazy.
Really, and they're so young. Volpe is a really good player and getting better. Bobby Witt Jr. is a superstar already. Gunnar Henderson is first or second in Major League, or second in baseball in home runs right now with 21?
I believe, unless he hit one already.
Yeah, and Judge has 24 because Aaron Judge is unbelievable. But yeah, as far as the Royals go tonight, I will call my shot. I got it wrong yesterday when I predicted that the Royals were going to find a way to win. I will call my shot today. The Royals offense will perform better today against Marcus Stroman than they did against Carlos Rodon yesterday. They will do a better job. Stroman, ground ball pitcher, wants you to put the ball on the ground. Royals hopefully will be able to use some of their speed to their advantage in this game. So the Royals get the win. Maybe I'm just hating on Marcus Stroman too much.
No, I think the Royals can get the win. I think they need to take, like I said yesterday and last week, need to take at least 2 games out of the series, which means they need at least to take tonight.
Yeah. Would like to get a longer outing out of Brady Singer today than last week.
That was also going to be a point I was going to make. If he can go 7, that'd be perfect, especially if their plans are still for a bullpen game tomorrow.
Yeah, because then you're set. Your bullpen locked in, everybody fully rested. You can use everybody. That would be nice. Do you know how many times this year Brady Singer has gone over 6 innings?
Is it once?
Brady Singer this season has exactly, and I lost his game log here. He has exactly 2 games in which he has gone more than 6 innings. He went 7 in his first game of the year, that 11-0 win over the Twins on the final day of March. And then his next start, he went 6 1/3. Since then, nothing more than 6 innings. Even 6. Get through 6. Yeah. And I will be all right with where this Royals team is. Pre-game's coming up at 6:30. We've got overtime before that, and we've got a final word coming up right after this commercial break to wrap up 580 Sports Talk. Final word time on 580 Sports Talk today. If you missed any of the show, check out the podcast at 580wibw.com or go over to YouTube, 580 Sports Talk there, and you can check out the replay of the show or any show from program history. All right, Spencer, final word.
It is just mandatory minicamp, but we've discussed this over the last 2 shows now. The burning questions heading into minicamp, not that many. And that's what you get when you're a fan of the Chiefs and in a well-oiled machine that the Chiefs are. But the biggest one, Kingsley Suamataia or Wanye Morris, who's going to start at left tackle? Is the guy on the roster? Who knows? Are they going to bring back Donovan Smith? That's the biggest question that we have left. And as I've mentioned too, the who's going to be the hierarchy of cornerbacks on the roster.
Final word for me, also relating to the Chiefs. I love adding Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, as he wants to be known, as an asset for the offense. I just don't think we should be putting all of our eggs in the Hollywood Brown is going to change this team basket. If he is your number 2 ahead of Xavier Worthy behind Rashee Rice, this is one of the best offenses in the NFL, just on paper when you consider everything else. If Brown's got to be your number 1 for 4, 6, 8, maybe more games due to the Rice off-field issues, that's when I have a little bit more in the way of concerns regarding this Chiefs offense going forward. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We're back tomorrow from 2 until 6. Tim Fitzgerald will join us. We'll hear more from Chiefs minicamp. Don't forget Royals baseball is up next after overtime. For Trenton and Spencer, I'm Brendan. This has been 580 Sports Talk.